Sakazuki Admiral, the pirate fleet that appeared as indeed the Whitebeard pirate group of New World, and the attached pirate group. Akainu waved his hand and said, "Let everyone in their positions. No one is allowed to leave their position without getting an order, and they are not allowed to do anything at will." "Yes, Sakazuki Admiral." The colonel immediately passed Akainu's orders, one after another, and soon everyone received Akainu's orders. If it is an ordinary pirate, Akainu will definitely not hesitate after seeing it, and will be attacked at the first time. But this time it is not ordinary pirates, but the strongest pirate alliance in New World, the strongest in the world. Man, Whitebeard. In the face of such an enemy, swarming up is just the next step. The situation is clear now. It is Whitebeard who is attacking. They have a good place, so there is no need to take the initiative to attack. It is the best choice to wait. Regarding the decision made by Akainu, Garp, Suru Vice Admiral and others did not express different opinions. This was just discussed. In fact, for most Marine soldiers here, this battle can be avoided if it can be avoided, as well. Not everyone is a hawk who is absolutely hostile to the pirates like Akainu. They can disregard their own lives in order to kill the pirates. After all, the pirates' craziness in the past few years, they have personally seen the pirates' craziness, and they have worked hard with this group of desperados. It is really difficult to do without firm belief. Thinking of what Vice Admiral said to him, Akainu couldn't help but laugh, and I don't know if Sengoku gave him such a weird order just because he had just boarded Martial Marine. If there is a chance, let them join forces to kill Whitebeard. If there is no chance, try to fight the Whitebeard pirate group, so that all major forces in New World can see that Marine has won. As for how many pirates can be eliminated, Sengoku don't care. After all, Sengoku didn't have much confidence in himself. All he wanted was a victory that defeated the head of the New World 4 emperors, even no matter how big the victory was, as long as he had an advantage. Such an incredible order was actually issued by Sengoku, which makes Akainu really incredible. This is all about fighting for prestige, putting on such a big battle. If you win, it's okay. If you lose, Marine's face will be lost. From Akainu's point of view, since you have fought, don't think so much, just think about how to kill Whitebeard. However, he was somewhat fortunate that he had not given the same order last time. He couldn't fight or lose face. In the end, he couldn't settle it easily, and he couldn't do well when he went back. Finally meeting again, Whitebeard. Akainu stared at the pirate ship coming forward, and was quite excited. It was not the first time he had met Whitebeard, but he still felt tremendous pressure. This pressure was not only from Whitebeard. There are also tens of thousands of soldiers in the base who have given their lives to themselves, so he must not let them down. The last time I met Whitebeard, he was at an absolute disadvantage, and he was not Marine Admiral. It was impossible for Marine to negotiate with Whitebeard in a fair manner. But this time is different. He is now Marine Admiral. In the absence of Martial Marine, he represents Naval Headquarters, which can be said to be at the same level as New World 4 emperors. Except that the generation is not as good as Whitebeard, the rest not much worse than Whitebeard. As for the strength, this must be played before you can know it. The distance between the two sides is getting closer and closer. While Marine is staring at the pirate ship, the pirates on the pirate ship are also staring at the Marine base. Although you can't see the whole picture of the base, all the pirates know that, Marine base there must be a large number of Marines waiting for them. Unlike the Marine soldiers who waited hard, the pirates on the dozens of pirate boats of the Whitebeard pirate group seem to be much more relaxed. Basically, the pirates on each ship gathered together, staring at the Marine base and laughing. I was going to avenge Carl, but I didn't expect it to turn into such a result now, Tusk. On the Moby Dick, Marco said to the surrounding pirates with a free and easy face, his expression relaxed, as if he was not under pressure from Marine at all. This time, the Whitebeard pirate group came to a total of 13 pirate search ships, all of which were large warships. Each warship had 1,000 people on board, so there were almost 10,000 people on board. In today's new world, a dozen large warships and 10,000 pirates can be pulled out at will. Except for the top pirate groups, there are really not many pirate forces that can do it. Whitebeard was sitting in a chair. In fact, he was quite helpless. A few days ago, he just wanted his pirate group to trouble Marine, but he didn't expect the news to spread. The New World pirates would call them Whitebeard. The pirates acted as a guidelight, hoping that they could fight against Marine, which has been very active in New World recently. In the beginning, Whitebeard didn't want to do that at all, but the pirate captains under his command contacted him one after another, hoping to avenge the brother pirate group that was destroyed by Akainu. Let's say it together, even his dad is said to be the heartbeat. In addition to what the pirates under his command said, New World only knows 4 emperors: Big Mom and Kaido recently. The two have just become the 4 emperors, and their momentum gradually expands. If their Whitebeard pirates still do not move, it is inevitable. Will be despised. Whitebeard doesn't care about fame, but now he is at the head of the 4 emperors. There are so many people, so many places, and the interests of so many people surround him. If he doesn't give Marine a back attack, it would be true. It may be used by someone with a heart, and let Marine, who was driven out by him before, recover quickly. So after thinking about it for a long time, Whitebeard finally made a decision. Whether or not he catches the ducks on the shelves, he also feels that it is time for him to do something, not for himself, but also for the many people who eat with him under his command. As soon as Whitebeard made a decision, naturally all parties responded, and the pirate groups under his command quickly gathered. Even the pirate forces that did not belong to Whitebeard before, there were several pirate forces who came back, expressing their willingness to fight against Marine with them. So it's not an exaggeration to say that in a short period of time, Whitebeard's power has expanded a bit, but this time he did not bring all of his men, but only half of the elite. Even if the G5 branch has the support of naval headquarters, then it wasn't naval headquarters either. He felt that bringing so many people was enough, so after a few days of preparations, he arrived late. It's the Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirates. When the pirate fleet approached the base, anyone who knew about the Whitebeard pirate group recognized the huge battleship that was the first to bear the brunt of the fleet. It was the signature vehicle of Whitebeard, and one of the top battleships in New World, Mobile. Number. It's Whitebeard. As an old opponent, Garp, after seeing the Moby Dick, also said that in today's New World, the Moby Dick is really too iconic. The appearance of the Moby Dick represents the appearance of Whitebeard. As for Claude, Paluzolino, and Kuzan, they all looked serious and quickly communicated orders to prepare all Marine soldiers. This war was obviously inevitable. A dozen pirate warships stopped abruptly when they were still hundreds of meters away from the base. Sakazuki Admiral, the fleet of the Whitebeard pirates has stopped. Akainu raised his brows. His formation is here. It is absolutely impossible to go out and fight Whitebeard, and he is not in a hurry. The Marine sits at home and there is no need to worry at all. No matter what decision Whitebeard makes, they just have to see all tricks will do. Father, it looks like Marine is ready. What shall we do next? After the Mobile stopped, the other pirate ships also stopped behind the Mobile, and then Marco asked Whitebeard. Whitebeard got up from his chair and walked to the bow of the Mobile. His gaze seemed to have crossed a long distance, directly seeing the situation in the base. It seems that Marine is ready. Marco smiled. That's for sure. We have been around for so long, but they are still indifferent. Obviously they are waiting for us to attack them. Daddy, then do we go in directly or wait? Woolen cloth. Whitebeard did not answer, but was thinking. Before he came, he had already thought a lot. As a pirate, he really took the initiative to attack Marine base for the first time. He used to be chased by Marine. Marine base, he really doesn't have much confidence. The captain of the 4th Division Saki said, Daddy, we have already explored. This Marine G5 branch base is a small island that is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It is difficult to get in from other places. Even if it can get in, it will definitely lose. Serious, so if you want to fight, you can only attack from the front. Joes of the 3rd Division yelled, but Marine clearly set up a formation on the front. How to get in? Everyone is talking here, and Whitebeard is also thinking about it. If you attack head on, there will definitely be a lot of losses, but now that he is here, he is not afraid of losses, he is just watching and waiting. Father, or just use your abilities directly, destroy this Marine base island, and let those guys die in the tsunami. A pirate loudly suggested to Whitebeard. As soon as this remark came out, many people couldn't help but agree. Yes, Father, with your power, it will be no problem to destroy this island if you spend a little time, and let all Marine be buried with his dead brothers. Yeah, Daddy, let those Marines see how good you are. Looking at the excited group of pirates, Marco snorted coldly, Shut up, Dad has his own plan, you just need to wait to listen to the order. He has followed Whitebeard for so long, and he understands Whitebeard very well. The power of shock fruit is indeed terrifying, but it is not omnipotent. With the power of Whitebeard, it is indeed possible to destroy an island, but that also takes time to complete. Marine, don't you know Whitebeard's abilities? Will you destroy this base island at will? This is obviously impossible. Whitebeard still did not speak. He was still weighing it. Although it is important to avenge the dead children, the pirates who came with him are also his children. You cannot ignore the safety of these people for the sake of revenge. He is very clear. If there is a fight, both Marine and them will suffer heavy losses. Sakazuki Admiral, Whitebeard's fleet has stopped for a while, but still has no intention of attacking. Seeing Whitebeard's people stopped and didn't attack, the Marines were very surprised. It was not like Whitebeard's style. Akainu is also a little anxious. Whitebeard has already arrived, and he didn't even fight. Is it because preparations are so exhausting? He didn't believe that Whitebeard had come all the way, just to spend time with them. What is Whitebeard doing? Garp was also a little puzzled, looking at the direction of Whitebeard and the others, as he thought, since Whitebeard has come, he must have made up his mind to attack directly instead of stopping there. Although the others didn't know what Whitebeard was waiting for, they didn't dare to be careless. After waiting for a short while, Akainu frowned. He told the guardian Jonathan and Dolo below, "Jonathan, Dolo, you take people to take all the pirates from the Moro pirates, bring me up." Since Whitebeard didn't take the initiative to attack, it seemed that he was the only one who took the initiative to push Whitebeard over. After Jonathan and Delordling, they swiftly went to the base prison and brought Carl and others from the Moro pirates group. Among them, several pirates were brought to the high platform where Akainu was located. Seeing Akainu's behavior, Garp and others are quite agree. Anyway, this is the end of the matter. Since Whitebeard is unwilling to attack immediately, they can only force Whitebeard to come over, and taking hostages is the best choice. As for the despicable and despicable, no one would think so. After all, Whitebeard had used Harrington Vice Admiral to persecute Marine. Use his own way to treat his own body. What do you want to do? After the pirate captain Carl was pulled up to the high platform, he looked at Akainu and asked angrily. Akainu looked at him and said, "You think I brought you here? What I want to do, look ahead." Carl turned his head in anger. The next moment, his expression suddenly became astonished, and he cried out in disbelief, "Daddy?" That's right. What he saw was the pirate flag of the Whitebeard pirates. In this sea, no one dared to use the Whitebeard pirate flag, let alone the iconic Moby Dick. Although Akainu told him in prison a few days ago that Whitebeard came back to Marine base to avenge them, but a few days later, although he prayed in his heart, he hoped that Whitebeard would save them, and he did not want Whitebeard to save them at the same time. Tangled. But at this moment, seeing the pirate ships and the familiar pirate flag, only excitement and regret remained in his heart. "Father, you actually came. Of course he is here, revenge for your trash." Akainu said coldly, "But it seems that I still overestimate him. Since he has already come, but I dare not attack him. Instead, I am waiting there, so I can only use this method to force him over, so I said, you guys are still useful. How dare you do this?" The pirate captain Carl's face instantly turned horrified, pointing at Akainu, but Akainu grabbed his shoulders and pressed hard, and he was directly pressed to the ground by Akainu. Fear score from Carl Anthony Alex. +317. Akainu pressed Carl on the high platform, and said coldly, "Keeping it here without killing you, it seems that it really worked. You said, if Whitebeard sees you, will he come over? Does this still need to be asked?" Carl roared angrily. "Akainu, you bastard, you have to die, I will kill you." But no matter how he yelled and struggled, how could he escape from Akainu's hands, and the pirates who were also taken around the high platform were also yelling in anger. Akainu sarcastically said, "Instead of doing something useless here, you might as well expect your dad to save you. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you until Whitebeard is here." "You bastard, Akainu." The pirate's scolding didn't affect any Marine, and even Akainu didn't care about it. How could the rest of the people care? Marines don't care about these pirates, but for the Whitebeard pirates, they are all anxious. "Father, look, on that high platform, was it Carl that was held by the bastard Akainu?" At this time, the Moby Dick was only a few hundred meters away from the Marine base and more than 1,000 meters away from the high platform of Akainu, so some people with sharp eyes can see the situation on the high platform even without a telescope. Some of the captains, including Whitebeard and Marco, saw the scene on the high platform. Their expressions changed drastically. Marco exclaimed, then picked up the binoculars, and said in the next second, "Daddy, it's really Carl." "Damn it." The pirates roared angrily, "Marine bastards, dare to threaten us with Carl." No one can see such obvious things. Although they are very angry, they can only grit their teeth and curse without Whitebeard's order, and dare not give orders for Whitebeard to save people. Marco said angrily, "It seems that Marine wants to use Carl and their lives to force us to attack. They came here for the revenge of the pirate group that was destroyed by Akainu, but now they found that Carl was not dead, but was used by Akainu to coerce them. They had retreated freely, and suddenly became the current dilemma. That magma kid dared to threaten me with the life of Carl's child, unforgivable." Whitebeard clenched his fists. He hadn't been so angry for a long time. He was threatened by the life under his hands. Although it was not the first time he met, now his opponent is naval headquarters. Even he feels great pressure. Father, you can't hesitate anymore, let's go. Many pirates shouted with excitement. In fact, in the past 2 years, Whitebeard has joined countless pirates, but it is the headquarters of the Whitebeard pirate group and a few pirates who are really like brothers, and Carl is one of them. It has only been 2 years since Carl's Molo pirates joined the Whitebeard group, but Carl has known the Whitebeard pirates a long time ago, because Carl challenged Whitebeard many years ago and was later defeated by Whitebeard, but Whitebeard did not kill him. Instead, he invited him to join his pirate group, but Carl did not agree. Even so, Whitebeard still let him go. Because of this, Carl had a relationship with the Whitebeard pirate group. Later, after Whitebeard was shamed by Akainu and became the Pirate 4 Emperors, he was the first to respond to Whitebeard and led his pirate group to subordinate to Whitebeard. Therefore, Carl and the pirates of the Whitebeard pirates are very familiar with each other, and they have a good relationship. Among the pirates under Whitebeard, they can't be said to be the best, but they are definitely ranked in the top 3, so everyone guesses so eagerly. Want to rescue him. They were still hesitating here, but Akainu couldn't wait. Seeing Whitebeard still did not move, his face flashed sharply, and he suddenly kicked Carl to the ground with one foot on Carl's back. Captain Carl, it seems that you don't have a high status in Whitebeard's heart. Even if you see you, aren't you ready to rescue? Go to hell, Akainu. Carl yelled at Akainu angrily. Akainu snorted disdainfully, and then took out a phone worm from his clothes pocket. This is an amplified phone worm he had prepared before. Now Whitebeard is not very far away from him, so he should be able to hear his voice. Whitebeard, didn't you come here to avenge your subordinates? Why didn't you dare to come over? Now your subordinates are under my feet. Give you 1 minute. If you can't come after 1 minute, then I am going to kill him. This Akainu is really shameless enough to threaten us. Akainu's voice was indeed heard by the members of the Whitebeard pirates. They were very angry. Now they heard Akainu's threat. They were naturally more angry. Everyone looked at Whitebeard. They knew that Whitebeard would definitely not sit back and watch Carl killed by Akainu. That magma kid has become bolder. The cold light in Whitebeard's eyes flickered, and Akainu was already intent on killing him. He told Marco in a cold voice. Let the order go on and get ready to act. Understood. Marco nodded solemnly. After Whitebeard finished giving orders, his eyes became fierce, and he walked to the forefront alone, staring at the marine base in front of him, and slowly raised his right hand. Seeing Whitebeard's actions, Marco immediately picked up the phone worm and said, Everyone is ready. Once Daddy creates a good opportunity, we will immediately start the action according to the original plan. Receive. Clear. Learn. I can't wait a long time. The pirate captains all responded quickly. They came here to fight Marine, but there was no order from the father before, and now they are finally about to do it. They are naturally excited. The pirate captains who can come here are all elite. Although there are only a dozen pirate ships, the number of pirate groups is more than that. Many of the ships are elites from other pirate groups. For these people said that killing is really normal, and they can still fight for the old man. Their belief is even more sufficient. After speaking the threatening words, Akainu looked at the position of the mobile with a serious face. He believed that with the pride of Whitebeard, he would definitely do something. At this moment, the marine base island suddenly shook. Although it was very slight, it was impossible for people like Akainu and Garp to feel it, so their expressions changed drastically. Sakazuki, Whitebeard used his abilities to make everyone stay vigilant and stabilize their bodies. Garp has been in contact with Whitebeard many times, and he also knows Whitebeard's abilities very well, so with just a little shock, he realized that Whitebeard must have used his abilities, otherwise it would be impossible for others to shake an island. Of course, Akainu knew that Whitebeard must have used his abilities. He immediately shouted to the phone bug. Everyone stayed vigilant. Whitebeard used his abilities to stabilize his body. He was very shocked in his heart. He thought that Whitebeard would attack, but he never expected that Whitebeard would use his shock fruit power at a distance of several hundred meters from the base island. What was more unexpected was that it was so far away. The distance of his shaking power can actually make this base island shake. When the soldiers in the base heard Akainu's yelling, they all remained vigilant. Most of them didn't understand Whitebeard's power, but they believed Akainu's warning. There was another shock, and then Akainu's expression suddenly became very solemn, staring at the sea in front of him, and there were many people who acted like him, such as Garp, Crane Vice Admiral, Kuzan, etc. all found something wrong ahead. A few minutes later, a scene that shocked all the Marines in the base occurred. The calm sea in front of the base suddenly rolled violently, and then it seemed to be shaken by a huge force, forming an astonishing tsunami. dozens of meters high. The huge wave took shape in a very short time, and it was overwhelmingly pressed against the base. This amazing scene made the legs of most people in the marine base soft. The island can withstand such a huge wave, but it is difficult to say whether the base can withstand it. A huge wave of tens of meters, dozens of seconds was useless, so I came to the base and saw the huge wave. Akainu's face was very ugly, and he suddenly shouted, "Kuzan." Standing on the defensive wall, Kuzan heard Akainu's big drink. His body suddenly leapt out and appeared before the huge wave. Compared to the huge wave that is dozens of meters high, Kuzan's figure, which is much taller than ordinary people, is also like an ant. The same size. It's Kuzan Vice Admiral. Kuzan Vice Admiral rushed into a huge wave. After Kuzan rushed to the front of the giant wave, his hands were aimed at the giant wave, and ice cubes appeared from his hand and connected to the giant wave. Ice Age. The moment when Kuzan's ice touched the tumbling huge wave, it quickly froze the amazing huge wave, and then the force of the freezing spread, and the huge wave tens of meters high was completely frozen in the blink of an eye. The huge waves turned into a giant ice wall, an ice wall tens of meters high, which is very amazing. The huge waves were frozen by Kuzan Vice Admiral. Great, we are saved. All Marines in the base screamed with excitement. If the huge wave was really hit just now, some people might not die, but there will definitely be a lot of people killed. Now that they are stopped by Kuzan, it means everyone is saved, and they naturally have a kind of surviving excitement. Daddy's tsunami was actually frozen. The pirate captain Carl, who was stepped on by Akainu, was shocked when he saw Kuzan icy the huge tsunami wave. Akainu didn't care about Carl's shock. Instead, he looked at the tens of meters high ice wall and felt shocked by Whitebeard's power. More than 2 years ago, he fought Whitebeard, but the two were just right. Whitebeard did not exert the terrifying power of shock fruit, so this was the first time he saw the tsunami caused by shock fruit. The comics say that Whitebeard has the power to destroy the world. This sentence may be a bit exaggerated, but it can also be seen that the evaluation of Whitebeard and shock fruit is really very high. The huge wave just created by Whitebeard may not be able to destroy the base island at once, but if it comes a few more times, it may not be impossible to destroy the island. Therefore, whether it is on the sea or on the ground, shock fruit's destructive power is as good as the lethality is one of the best, because the tsunamis and earthquakes created are simply not something ordinary people can withstand. A huge wave tens of meters high stood between the two sides, which directly caused neither of the two sides to see anyone, and the scene fell silent for a while. Crane Vice Admiral looked at the ice wall and kept thinking. Suddenly, her face changed, and she immediately shouted to Akainu above, "Sakazuki, let the artillery troops in front reload immediately, and the Whitebeard pirates will rush over." Akainu was startled when he heard Vice Admiral's scream, and then reacted, and immediately picked up the phone bug, but before he could speak, suddenly, the ice wall tens of meters high collapsed and turned into broken ice. Fell on the sea. But this was not something that made him nervous. What made him nervous was that after the ice wall collapsed, a huge pirate ship had already arrived. Fire. There is no need to wait for Akainu to give orders. The commanders of the artillery troops in front are all roaring loudly. Rumble. The cannons on the defense walls of the base had been loaded with ammunition in advance, so the sudden appearance of the Whitebeard pirates did not disrupt their squareness, and the cannons were fired as scheduled. You were forced to get close to this distance, Whitebeard, you are still amazing. Akainu sighed. Even though he is an enemy, he still has to admit that Whitebeard's calculations are exquisite, using vibration to launch a tsunami and generate huge waves. If it can produce the best effect, if it does not produce too much effect, use this opportunity to get closer. The tsunami did not produce an effect. It was frozen by Kuzan with freezing power. But this way, it also gave the Whitebeard pirates a good opportunity. The ice wall was standing there. Marine was unable to attack and could not see the opponent, so he was killed by Whitebeard. There was no way to rush to such a short distance. Marine bombarded the pirates. A dozen pirate ships were also bombarding Marine's first defense. The distance between the two sides was only more than 100 meters, and the shells were able to bombard the opposite side, so no one accounted for the first round of attacks. Too cheap. But not far before the pirates' ships came directly to the base, Kuzan's ice wall was also shattered by Whitebeard, restoring the previous sea surface. Unable to stop them from advancing, they could only let the pirate ships head forward with gunfire. Rush. Haha. How can you guess how great your father is, Akainu? You will be dead when your father comes over. Carl turned his head, stared at Akainu fiercely, and laughed happily. Akainu had a bad temper. After being played by Whitebeard, he heard Carl's laugh again. His eyes flashed sharply, and he kicked him aside, and said coldly, "If you dare to talk nonsense, I am now just kill all your subordinates." Fear score from Carl Anthony Alex, +174, humph. Although he was very upset, Carl was really afraid of Akainu doing that, so he didn't say anything again. Seeing more than a dozen pirate ships about to rush to the base, Kuzan rushed out again. He is young, but his combat experience is not bad. It is clear that at this time if it was the dozen large pirate ships of the Whitebeard pirate group, what will be the result of rushing into the base? The first defense will definitely not withstand the shelling of these pirate ships. Ice Age. It quickly landed on the surface of the sea, and the freezing capacity exploded. In an instant, the rough sea surface was completely frozen, and the fast-moving pirate ship suddenly stopped because the sea surface was frozen. At this time, the Moby Dick at the forefront was only tens of meters away from the base's first defense. No, it's Marine Vice Admiral Kuzan. He froze the sea and the ship could not move on. When the pirates saw that the sea was frozen, they were very anxious. They were about to rush into the marine base, but they were one step short of it. Who can't be anxious, but some people react quickly. Everyone got off the boat and rushed over. On a pirate ship, the captain of the pirate regiment shouted to his men. Suddenly, hundreds of pirates abandoned the ship, jumped onto the ice, and rushed to the base island in groups. Soon, the rest of the pirate regiment followed suit. Except for a few people left to continue protecting the ship and firing guns, all the other pirates jumped off the ship and moved forward together. "Fire, fire, you must not let the pirates rush up." Claude stood on the defensive wall, shouting hoarsely. "Brothers, it's time to serve the old man. Go ahead, kill these marines." A pirate captain shouted excitedly, and hundreds of pirates responded, completely ignoring marines' artillery fire and rushing forward frantically. Seeing that the pirates were about to rush to the shore of the base island, if they were occupied by the pirates, it would be very unfavorable for Marine, so Paluzolino, who was on the first line of defense, immediately issued an order. "Do your best to intercept the pirates." With an order, dozens of generals obeyed the order at the same time, led Marine under his command, and rushed towards the pirates. At the moment when the pirates contacted Marine, the war broke out. Most of the 20,000 soldiers brought from naval headquarters have already rushed to the battlefield. These people alone are more than the number of this group of pirates, and unlike the scattered pirates, each of their teams is led by someone, and they are distinct. Although the number of pirates is less than that of Marine, this does not mean that the combat effectiveness is weak. The pirates who follow Whitebeard are all elite. Although they are based on each pirate group and have no precise command, this is the same as they used to be. The battle is not much different. Compared with Marine's battle formation, their personal combat effectiveness is even better. Kill. The two sides fought fiercely on the shore and on the ice of the base. Although they had just contacted each other, both sides gathered their strength and wanted to kill each other without mercy. Just one contact, there were many people. The tragic death was in the hands of the other party, but such a bloody scene did not scare the people on both sides. Someone died, and some people made up to continue the fight. Not all the pirates were dispatched. Right now, only the pirates under Whitebeard were fighting. Some of the headquarters of the Whitebeard Pirate Regiment also participated in the battle, but none of the pirate captains on the Moby Dick participated in the battle. Marco held the phone worm in his hand and kept saying, "Rabbit, you stay in command everyone. Use the cannon to open the way for everyone. If you can hit the fort on the marine base wall, you will attack with all your strength. Never let those fortresses stop the brothers from advancing." "Understood, Captain Marco." A response came from the phone worm. "Vika, you took 2 pirate regiments to open the way from both sides. You want to break into the base. Your cover is very important. Let your people use their abilities. If they can climb the defensive wall, they can grab a position there. We can gain the upper hand." For the Whitebeard pirates, the 10-meter-high defensive wall is the trouble. If their pirate ship could drive directly to the shore before, they could use the force of the impact to hit the defensive wall, but now the thief ships were frozen and could not be used anymore, so they had to use manpower to seize the position. The pirates' assaults seemed to have no rules, but in fact they all acted according to Marco's orders. As the second person in the Whitebeard pirates, Marco is not very young, but he has the trust and teachings of Whitebeard to command the troops. Unflappable. Being put on by Whitebeard, there is no great advantage left. Garp in the rear saw the Whitebeard pirates rush forward quickly, his face was also very solemn. Crane Vice Admiral gritted her teeth. She didn't expect this situation. She said in a deep voice, "This is also impossible. Whitebeard's ability is too powerful. Even if he knows his plan, there is no way to stop it. But the battle has just begun and our advantage is still there. If Whitebeard wants to break into the interior, he will inevitably lose a lot. At the beginning, he did not obtain a geographical advantage, but Vice Admiral was still confident. Because Whitebeard wanted to save people, he could only choose to rush forward, but the 10-meter-high defensive wall was not so easy to break through. Harrington and the Ghost Spider did not fight for the first time, but led their people to guard on both sides. They were used as the second line of defense. If the pirates rushed to the defensive wall, it was time for them to attack. And staying inside the base, in front of the high platform where Akainu is located, are the soldiers of Claude's branch. They are very familiar with the terrain of the base. If the pirates come in, they have enough experience to fight the pirates. Looking at the Marine and the pirates fighting in front of the base island, Akainu has recovered his calm. Although Whitebeard has been close, the initiative is still in their hands. It is not so easy for Whitebeard to attack here. Unless Whitebeard himself makes the shot himself. How long can you stand it, Whitebeard? He knew very well that, as the leader, Whitebeard would either not make a shot, and a shot would have to be a thunderblow, so he kept staring at the Moby Dick. The ones that could really make him feel threatened were Whitebeard and his men. Captain, the other pirate captains don't need him to care at all. There are so many people in Marine who can deal with them. The pirates had already followed Marco's instructions, but there were too many Marines. Even if they tried their best to attack forward, they couldn't approach the defensive wall quickly. Seeing this scene, Marco said in a deep voice to Whitebeard, "Father, there are a lot of Marines. I am afraid it will not be so easy to rely on them to rush into it." Whitebeard has been paying attention to the battle in the field. He naturally sees that he has no advantage. He is also a man who has experienced many battles, but he really has not experienced this kind of battle a few times, not to mention this time. The Marine unit led by the well-prepared Admiral of Headquarters is really difficult to get in. "You guys go too." Hearing Whitebeard's order, the pirates who were already eager to try, all jumped off the mobile in excitement, and the captains of the pirate regiment rushed into the battlefield one by one. The combat effectiveness of the people in the headquarters of the Whitebeard pirate group is obviously stronger than that of the other pirates by more than 1 point, especially those captains. After they joined the battlefield, the morale of the pirates increased greatly, and the combat effectiveness also skyrocketed, pressing Marine back. Go. This scene was naturally seen by Akainu and others. Vice Admiral frowned slightly, and then whispered to the lieutenant next to him. The lieutenant quickly walked forward and didn't know what to say to the personnel in front. Akainu saw that the Crane Vice Admiral had made adjustments, so he didn't care about it anymore. Instead, he carefully looked at the battlefield. Soon, a dozen Marine generals would meet the captains of the Whitebeard pirates. Several Vice Admiral, and some Rear Admiral, are all elites from naval headquarters. I have to say that these captains of the Whitebeard pirate group are really strong, and they have not fallen behind against Marine Vice Admiral, and Akainu did not recognize who these captains are, because many of them are all captains. The person he didn't know was obviously different from the captain 10 years later. Kuzan immediately sealed a pirate rushing towards him. Looking at the fallen Marine corpse around him, his brows frowned. He is in his 20s this year and belongs to the very young Marine Vice Admiral. The army has only been fighting for a few years. It was the first time he experienced such a large-scale war. The bloody scene made him very unhappy. He raised his head and glanced at Whitebeard standing on the bow of the mobile. A trace of determination flashed in his eyes. He knew that the main target of this war was Whitebeard. As long as Whitebeard can be resolved, the war can end. Since Akainu has become after Marine Admiral, he was also greatly stimulated and thought about the position of Marine Admiral. Akainu said before that anyone who can kill Whitebeard can become Marine Admiral. This may be a bit too much in the eyes of others, but in his opinion, it is still very promising. He is now the highly regarded Marine Vice Admiral. If he can catch the world's #1 big pirate Whitebeard, this kind of credit may really help him ascend to the position of Marine Admiral. Just do it when he thinks. Kuzan jumped and rushed towards the mobile. With a move of his hands, 2 ice spears appeared and shot at Whitebeard at a very fast speed. As the protagonist, Whitebeard is naturally the object of everyone's attention, so Kuzan's move was discovered by everyone on the battlefield, and the pirates all shouted in anger. Whitebeard looked at the ice spear that came over and kept smiling, and just as the ice spear was about to hit it, a sharp light appeared, cutting the 2 ice spears into several pieces. "You don't have the qualifications to fight against Dad, Kuzan Vice Admiral." A figure fell in front of Kuzan. Kuzan narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "The Whitebeard Pirates, the captain of the 4th Division." The person who blocked Kuzan's attack was the captain of the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. The strong, but the sad captain who was killed by Blackbeard's sneak attack because of dark fruit. Holding a sword in his hand, he confronted Kuzan with a serious face. Kuzan looked at Sachi with a solemn expression. This Sachi can become the captain of the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. There is no doubt about his strength. Even if it is him, he does not dare to take it lightly. Let me be your opponent, Kuzan Vice Admiral. Saki said with a smile. After finishing speaking, without waiting for Kuzan's answer, he suddenly rushed out and came to Kuzan's face extremely fast. The long sword pierced Kuzan's body directly. Kuzan took the opportunity to grab Saki's arm, and the cold air burst out of his body. Starting from the arm, Saki's whole person was quickly frozen. Call. Kuzan let out a cold breath, and at the same time an ice blade appeared in his hand. He was about to stab Saki. Caw. But at this moment, Saki's ice sculpture cracked, Kuzan's face changed, and the speed in his hand was even faster. Clang. It is a pity that Kuzan's ice blade did not stab Saki, because at the last moment, Saki had broken the ice, blocked the ice blade with a weapon, and then quickly retreated. As expected of Logia frozen fruit ability, it is really chilling. Shaking his cold body, Sachi broke Kuzan's ice, but the cold air still penetrated into his body. It made him very uncomfortable for a while, but it didn't hurt him. Kuzan frowned. He was very confident in his abilities. He was quite surprised to see Sachi able to break the ice so quickly. At the same time, it was a pity that he did not defeat Sachi with this blow. The ability of frozen fruit is indeed very strong. It can be said that it is a relatively unsolvable ability on the sea, and its practicality is also very prominent. But it also has some shortcomings, that is, the lethality is somewhat lacking, and it lacks the destructive power of one hit. Or it can be said that Kuzan has not yet been developed to that extent. Yo, it's really troublesome, it won't work if you don't make a move. Seeing that the marine generals, including Kuzan, were entangled by the captains of the Whitebeard pirate group, Peluzalino shook his head helplessly, then the whole person turned into golden light and disappeared with a scream. When Kizaru appeared again, already on top of Whitebeard's head, he chuckled softly. Sakazuki can compete with Whitebeard, I shouldn't be much different. Immediately, he was ready to use his abilities to attack Whitebeard. He was similar to Kuzan and was stimulated by Akainu. He also saw Akainu fighting Whitebeard with his own eyes. He thought he was no worse than Akainu. What Akainu can do, the same can be done. Drink. A loud shout blasted in Peluzalino's ears, and then he saw a huge shadow hitting him all over, causing him to turn into a golden light and be knocked into flight. Boom. Peluzalino made a big hole on the ice, and then he recovered and stood on the ice. Oh, fortunately I reacted quickly, otherwise it would be unlucky. With that said, he looked towards the position just now, and saw a huge shiny figure standing there. The Whitebeard Pirates, the captain of the 3rd Division, Diamond Joes. It was one of the captains of the Whitebeard Pirates that hit him, Joes, who has the ability of Diamond Fruit. This captain ranked 3rd in the Whitebeard Pirates, is naturally very powerful. I am Daddy's shield. If you want to attack Daddy, please pass my level first, Joes shouted loudly. Not to mention the battle between Kuzan and Peluzalino. After the captains of the Whitebeard Pirates joined the pirates, their fighting power increased greatly. Especially the pirates of the Whitebeard squad were extremely fierce. Led the pirates to rush under the defensive wall, and were hitting the defensive wall with gunfire. Because the captains are so strong, ordinary marine generals can't resist it. Claude, who is standing on the defensive wall, can't keep calm when seeing this scene, picking up his own broadsword, and jumping off the defensive wall. Meet the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, the captain of the 9th Division, Blenheim. This Blenheim is also an old man of the Whitebeard Pirates, but he has only become the captain of the team not long ago. He is naturally very strong, so Claude will pick him. Beasta led the pirates of his squad to attack from the left, and the marine that killed him was retreating steadily. Several marine officers had already died in his hands. His kendo was so weird and uncomfortable, he was killed consciously. Clang. With the clash of several weapons, Beasta saw that the attacker turned out to be Vice Admiral wearing a marine justice coat. What's even more strange is that there are 8 spider-like legs behind him, and they all have swords. You are the Ghost Spider Vice Admiral under Akainu's command. As the powerful Vice Admiral under the command of Akainu, the main character who caused the war this time, the intelligence of ghost spiders is naturally controlled by Whitebeard, so he is very easy to identify, and Vista can recognize it at a glance. The ghost spider smiled coldly and said, "Foil, Vista, let me be your opponent." Seeing the increasingly fierce battle, Akainu resisted his inner impulse and did not take action. He found that apart from the more than 10,000 soldiers still inside, The other Marines had participated in the battle. Those Marine generals, they also encountered difficult opponents. Up to now, the Vice Admiral level people, apart from Akainu, Garp and Vice Admiral in the rear, there is only one Harrington who has not participated in the battle. Airstrikes, airstrikes, watch out for the sky. Suddenly someone yelled. Many people looked up and saw a blue shadow flying to the defensive wall at a very fast speed. It overturned 2 of the cannons and killed a lot of the surrounding sea. The thief, after everyone saw it clearly, was very shocked, because it turned out to be a giant bird braving a blue flame. It's Captain Marco. Captain Marco has attacked the defensive wall. Brothers, kill. Seeing Marco actually rushed onto Marine's defensive wall, the pirates' morale increased, and they roared with excitement. Fire. There were a lot of Marines on the defensive wall. They shot at the big blue bird at the same time, leaving countless bullet holes on the big blue bird, but a shocking scene happened. I saw the big blue bird. The blue flame on the bird ignited, and the pierced area quickly returned to its original state. Oh, it seems that your attack didn't work for me. What about my attack? Marco rushed into the group of Marines. How could the ordinary soldiers stop him, and he was killed so miserably? Don't shoot him. He has eaten the zone, you demons, an undead shape-capable person. Even if he hits him with ordinary attacks, he will recover quickly. You are all scattered, and I will deal with him. The Marines surrounding Marco dispersed in front, and Harrington walked out solemnly. When Marco saw Harrington, he suddenly chuckled. Oh, it turned out to be you. You have been kicked out of New World. You dare to come back, and you dare to appear in front of me. Have you forgotten the last time? How did you fail miserably? The last time he faced Whitebeard's fiasco, Harrington was defeated by Marco. Harrington did not show anger in his face and was ridiculed by Marco. He was the lieutenant of the former Marine Marshal Kong. He was not the Vice Admiral with outstanding combat effectiveness. His strength could only be regarded as Vice Admiral in the past. Mediocre. Now that he gets older, his combat effectiveness has naturally dropped a lot. But even so, facing the morale of Marco, he was not timid, and said coldly, "If you want to break through here, step over my corpse first." Marco laughed and said, "Then as you wish, kill you first, and then kill Akainu." Except for the soldiers from the Marine branch who have not yet participated in the battle, the Marine units are fighting with the pirates. The upper level is Garp, Suru Vice Admiral and Akainu, as well as some of the officers guarding them, the Whitebeard pirates. On the other side of the group, Whitebeard has not done anything yet. Akainu has been staring at Whitebeard, and he always feels something is wrong in his heart. People like Whitebeard, if they are not confident, cannot attack them, but now the pirates of the Whitebeard pirate group have basically gone out. In the current situation, Marines still occupy an absolute advantage, because they still have a large number of soldiers not participating in the battle, and Whitebeard is no longer there. Garp is also puzzled by him. He has not participated in the battle because he is guarding Whitebeard. Once Whitebeard takes action, he needs to block Whitebeard. As for the others, he is not prepared to help. Xiaohei, we still have an advantage at the moment. Why don't we just pull the rest out and wipe out the Whitebeard pirates in one fell swoop? He Vice Admiral said. You are also an old man. Do you think Whitebeard will have no success? It's really troublesome. Garp exclaimed dissatisfied. Whitebeard was standing on the bow of the mobile. This situation was in his expectation. It has been nearly half an hour since the start of the war. Many corpses have been lying on the ice and on the shore, and the pirates are also increasing. The closer to the base defensive wall, but it is not so easy to break there. It's time to fight it all in one go. Whitebeard took out a phone worm and said to the phone worm, "It's time for you to come out." Without answering, Whitebeard put down the phone bug again, and grabbed the pheasant beside him, his eyes sharpened. A few minutes later, 2 large pirate ships appeared on the sea. These 2 pirate ships turned out to be rare foreign ships. After contacting the ice, the bow of the ship would be covered by ice. Bumped away and continued to move forward. No, it's an icebreaker. Marines exclaimed when they saw these 2 huge pirate ships. The 2 ships had rushed towards the defensive wall quickly. Although they were not fast, if they hit the defensive wall, the consequences would be disastrous, the worst. The result is that the pirates can use the pirate ship to rush to the defensive wall. Go! The pirates shouted in excitement. Many people followed the icebreaker on both sides. The ordinary Marines simply couldn't resist these 2 pirate ships. Oops. The Marine executives did not expect that the Whitebeard pirates still had 2 icebreakers hidden behind them. Now they saw the icebreakers rampage relying on the outer ships, and they were all shocked. Kuzan swiftly moved towards the 2 ships, trying to rely on his own ability to freeze the 2 ships, but a sword light flashed by, forcing him to stop. Kuzan Vice Admiral, your opponent is me, Saki said to Kuzan. Haha. Fire, fire. The colonel on the defensive wall roared loudly, but even though the shells hit the pirate ship, it still could not completely stop its actions. Finally, the pirate ship slammed into the defensive wall and knocked the wall twice. A big pothole. Opportunity is here, go ahead. When the pirates saw this scene, they all rushed into the pirate ship with excitement. Using the pirate ship as the medium, they quickly rushed to the defensive wall. Even though Marine tried its best to stop them, they could not stop all the pirates. Soon, the defensive wall also evolved into a battlefield for Marine and the pirates. Boom. Harrington was kicked by Marco and hit the wall. A mouthful of blood spurted out. As he was old, his strength declined very quickly, and he could not resist the young and middle-aged Marco. Tisk tisk, Harrington Vice Admiral, you are much weaker than a few years ago. If I want to kill you now, it doesn't take much effort. Marco looked at Harrington contemptuously. Now that the pirates have rushed to the defensive wall, he defeated Harrington again. The situation is very good. He is naturally in a very good mood, but when he is proud, he hears suddenly there was an angry outcry, and the hot temperature enveloped him, causing his face to change suddenly. I don't need much effort to kill you. The scorching magma fist blasted on Marco, who was too late to dodge, blasting his whole body directly from the defensive wall to the battlefield under the wall, sliding a long distance on the ice before stopping his figure. It's Sakazuki Admiral. It's Sakazuki Admiral who made the shot. The pirates are dead. Seeing that Akainu blasted Marco into the air as soon as he shot, the Marines under the defensive wall burst out with amazing cheers. How strong Admiral really is, but now seeing him hit Marco with a single blow, he was all impressed by his strength. Marine Admiral, Akainu. Marco supported his body. Although he had just used his abilities in an emergency, the Phoenix form was not completely invulnerable, but had a limit. He was still burned by Akainu's magma and is slowly recovering. For Akainu, Marco was still quite impressed, because Akainu took people away from their ship and fought Whitebeard, which was appreciated by Whitebeard, which is not something ordinary people can do. And Akainu is indeed fighting spirit. In a short time, he became the new Marine Admiral. Although the attack was a sneak attack, it was able to wound him. This made him realize that Akainu's strength has improved compared with the original. Many. Sakazuki, he's the coach, why did he rush over so impulsively? Garp saw Akainu leave from the high platform and rushed to the defensive wall to join the battle, and suddenly screamed in dissatisfaction. On the contrary, Vice Admiral's performance is relatively calm. The situation is a bit bad now. Akainu personally took action just to stabilize the situation. After all, the Masters of Marine are now dragged by the Whitebeard pirates. Only Akainu and Garp are able to make waves. Garp also has to guard against Whitebeard, so Akainu's shot is the best choice. For the time being, Akainu hit Faye Marco with a single blow, which really boosted Marine's morale. Standing on the wall, Akainu glanced coldly at Marine and pirates who were fighting around. He did not go up to help. He is very strong, but if he participates in the battle, he is likely to accidentally injure his own people. He treats these heroic killers. Marine soldiers are very satisfied and naturally will not do anything similar to a few years ago. He glanced at Marco, who was flying by him, then he shifted his gaze and looked at Whitebeard, who stood proudly on the mobile, with a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. As if feeling Akainu's hot gaze, Whitebeard also looked at him and murmured, it seems that the magma imps have grown a lot back then. He had a high opinion of Akainu back then, so he was not surprised that Akainu could become Marine Admiral and dare to provoke him, but he still did not put Akainu in his eyes. Akainu was just a kid in his eyes. That's it. Whitebeard. After seeing Whitebeard, Akainu saw no one else in his eyes. He didn't need to worry about him behind him. He just thought about how to deal with Whitebeard. He didn't hesitate for long. He quickly rushed out of the defensive wall and jumped into the air. Burning River Rock. I saw Akainu put his hands in front of him in midair and suddenly spit out a dozen magma balls from his mouth. After the magma balls were spit out, they were 3 or 4 basketballs the size and quickly shot at Whitebeard. This move was a skill book he had just purchased from the system, Burning River Rock. Because the fear value earned by Carl's pirates a few days ago was not enough to buy the stronger skill book, he could only buy this one. It's cheaper, but he has tried this trick. The lethality is still very amazing. General officers at the general level will get burned if they don't react in time. This trick uses the amazing damage of magma, coupled with the impact force spit out in a special way. It is very powerful. Father. At first sight Akainu attacked Whitebeard. Regardless of his unrecovered body, Marco flew up and rushed towards the magma ball that attacked Whitebeard, but Akainu spit out a dozen magma balls and shot them from different angles. To Whitebeard, no matter how fast Marco was, he only blocked 2 magma balls, and the remaining magma balls still shot towards Whitebeard. Father. Seeing so many magma balls smashing into Whitebeard, even though the pirates knew their father was powerful, they couldn't help shouting nervously. Facing the magma ball that came from a rapid shot, Whitebeard grinned and said, "Interesting attack." That's right. Akainu's sudden blow was only more interesting to him. He saw him holding a pheasant in one hand, and a punch in the front with the other hand. Crack, crack. After Whitebeard's fist blasted out, it was obviously only hitting the air, but the space in front of his fist seemed to be split in half, and cracks appeared. This is when he hits the air with the force of vibration, thus forming an atmospheric vibration, which produces a very strong impact. Boom. The magma balls that hit Whitebeard from all directions were hit by the impact of Whitebeard's vibration at the moment they were about to hit. After a few seconds, they all exploded and turned into masses of magma shots. Going in all directions, there were a few melee pirates and marine who couldn't escape. They were hit by magma and screamed. One blow destroyed Akainu's attack, and Whitebeard didn't stop there. He let go of his right hand holding a large pheasant, and hit the air again with a punch in the direction of Akainu, and a straight line of vibrating force went straight to Akainu. Magma Kid, you also try to take me a hit. He didn't keep his hand, and the power of the shock that burst out with all his strength was amazing, and he blasted towards Akainu in a straight line. The shot was fast and fierce. Akainu was in the middle of the air and only had time to elementize himself, but he was still bombarded by the force of the shock. Directly hit the defensive wall. Boom. Sakazuki Admiral. Seeing that Akainu was blown away by Whitebeard, the Marines all exclaimed and worried for Akainu. Clang clang. The 2 swordsmen, Beasta and Ghost Spider, fought very quickly, but gradually, Beasta had begun to suppress the Ghost Spider. As a genius swordsman, Beasta had excellent talents, although the Ghost Spider was not weak. But it was worse than Beasta, so it was already faintly unable to stop Beasta. Your master is really overwhelmed and dare to challenge his father. Does he really think he is capable of confronting our father? The Ghost Spider was not affected by Beasta. His hands were constantly waving weapons against Beasta by the hands behind his back. Don't look at his swords than Beasta. But his swordsmanship is not someone's sword. More is more powerful, he is not Beastar's opponent in the first place, and if he is distracted, he will only lose faster. Really cold enough, don't worry about your master at all? Beasta was boring to see that the Ghost Spider was not affected. Originally, he still wanted to use this to fight the Ghost Spider and quickly defeat him, but the Ghost Spider was not affected, and his plan could only be invalid. Sakazuki, as the coach, rushed over so recklessly. How can Whitebeard be so easy to deal with? Garp saw that Akainu was beaten by Whitebeard. Instead of showing concern, he complained a bit. He had practiced with Akainu for a period of time, and he knew a little about Akainu's strength, so he was not worried that Akainu would be injured. Crane Vice Admiral didn't care too much. She didn't think it was a big deal for Akainu to shoot. Anyway, there was her command in the rear, and now the battle has become fierce. It may not be a bad thing for Akainu's super combat power to join the battlefield. Magma gathered from the defensive wall. Akainu jumped to the defensive wall, and saw that he had just hit the position of the defensive wall. At this time, a large hole had been dissolved, but for the huge defensive wall, it was not very serious. Seeing Akainu's emergence without incident, many Marines who were worried about him were relieved. Although the Pirate 4 Emperor's Whitebeard is powerful, but fortunately, their Marine Admiral is not incompetent. If it is killed by Whitebeard, then it's too embarrassing. In fact, Akainu really didn't have anything at all. It looked miserable just now. He was bombarded by Whitebeard, but in fact he was elementalized at that time and was not injured at all. At such a long distance, Whitebeard's hockey was not enough. Hurt him. He looked back at the Crane Vice Admiral in the back, and nodded at her. Seeing this, Vice Admiral took out the phone worm and began to convey orders. After dozens of seconds, First saw Marine who was fighting the pirates quickly retreat. The gate of the base's defensive wall was suddenly opened. Marines rushed towards the inside, and even the Marine generals quickly got rid of it. Own opponent, retreat. When they saw this, the pirates were immediately surprised, but because they had already attacked the defensive wall, they saw Marine retreating. They thought Marine wanted to retreat to the base and isolate them, so they all chased them. Many pirates rushed into the base defensive wall from this. Akainu also saw this scene, but he did not move and let the pirates rush in. But Whitebeard frowned when he saw this situation. He could naturally see that Marine was not at a disadvantage, but they evacuated into the base at this time. There was obviously a problem. A few minutes later, all the Marines retreated into the base. Although half of the pirates chased and killed them, when the other pirates were also preparing to rush in and take down the defensive wall, Akainu suddenly jumped to the entrance. One person blocked all the pirates. "It's Akainu, attack him." Seeing Akainu blocking the way, the pirates immediately attacked him, but these attacks couldn't hurt Logia's ability at all. With both hands on the ground, Akainu suddenly shouted, "Wagwoshin!" In an instant, his hands turned into magma. Within tens of meters in front of him, magma appeared turbulently. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a sea of magma. Surrounded by the sea, his body was quickly swallowed by magma. "No, go back, everyone retreat immediately." After Marco was beaten out of the defensive wall, he stayed behind. At this moment, he saw the magma sea made by Akainu and immediately shouted loudly. The pirates who were about to be affected all screamed and ran back, and the magma it is chasing behind them. When the magma sea expanded to a range of 50 meters, it stopped and spread to the ice surface. The ice surface was quickly melted. Numerous pirates were surrounded by the magma sea. Some people quickly vacated and wanted to withdraw. But a few seconds after the formation of the magma sea, an amazing scene happened. The magma sea was like a volcanic eruption. The magma spurted out. All the pirates in the range were swallowed by the erupted magma, and the erupted magma sputtered everywhere. The pirates who fled behind were also within the attack range. This amazing volcanic eruption lasted for more than a minute, and the entire shore became a sea of magma, in which countless pirates died tragically, and the engulfed bones were gone, and the loss was heavy. This effect made Akainu very satisfied. With just this move, hundreds of pirates were swallowed by his magma, and only a handful of them could escape. The power of this trick is indeed very strong. The only pity is that the speed of creating a sea of magma is slightly slow. If it is the kind of person who is good at speed, he can still get out of the range quickly if he is prepared. Of course, the most powerful thing about this trick is the volcanic eruption at the back. As long as it is within the range, basically no one can stop this erupting volcanic magma, and those who touch it will die. This bastard actually killed so many of us. The pirates behind saw this scene, and they were all very angry. No wonder that Marine had to retreat all just now, even ignoring their intrusion into the base. It turned out to be for this trick. The indiscriminate range attack is simply a big killer on the battlefield. In fact, the power of this trick Wagwoshin is much worse than Meteor Volcano, both in terms of lethality and range, but the only thing that is more convenient than Meteor Volcano is that this trick does not require much preparation time. It can be done, and cleaning up the miscellaneous soldiers is an unsolvable technique. No, many brothers rushed into the base. They are separated from us. If they don't support them, they will be finished. After the anger, the pirates suddenly became cold all over, because just now many pirates were chasing in order to be able to rush into the base, which caused many people to enter the interior. Now they are separated and they are almost turned into what's in Marine's bag. Marco. Suddenly, Whitebeard yelled, and the big blue bird soared into the sky and flew directly into the base. At the same time, Whitebeard, who had been standing on the mobile, also jumped onto the ice that hadn't melted yet. Retreat all. The pirates dispersed quickly, and then saw Whitebeard raising the pheasant with both hands, aiming at Akainu's direction, and slashing with all his strength. Unexpectedly, the blade light appeared, and it was accompanied by the power of vibration. I saw a straight line of ice, seawater, and magma in front of Whitebeard. On the defensive wall behind Akainu. Boom. A shocking scene happened. The huge defensive wall was split directly by Whitebeard's knife, and a huge gap appeared. The two big iron gates were also smashed and flew far, turning them into real portals, wide open. Little ones, rush with me. At this moment, Whitebeard is no longer just watching. Instead, the pirates leading the Whitebeard pirate group rushed to the defensive wall guarded by Akainu, because the surrounding magma was split. Under the leadership of Whitebeard, the pirates they all quickly crossed the melted sea, roaring and rushing forward. Akainu's face changed suddenly. Thousands of pirates rushed over, plus the leader of the pirate Whitebeard. No matter how good he was, he couldn't stop so many people, so he turned around and jumped back to the defensive wall. Even the portal was split by Whitebeard. Naturally, it was impossible to prevent the pirates from rushing into the base. Watching the pirates rushing into the defensive wall, Akainu's face was very ugly. After all, the branch base is the branch base, compared to Marineford Naval. Compared with Headquarters Defensive Base, it is not above the same level at all. If it is in the Naval Headquarters Base, with the defensive walls there, it is impossible for Whitebeard to easily split it, and it is impossible for the pirates to rush in like this. It is completely possible to take advantage of the geographical advantage and consume the pirates. But now, the pirates have rushed into the base, so that the internal siege of the pirates who just rushed in has not yet ended, and it has been interrupted. The pirates quickly gathered together again, although the loss was heavy, but there are still a large number of pirates alive. They still got in. Garp sighed and said. The Vice Admiral was very calm, and said faintly, "It's okay to come in, just eliminate them all here. You have to be prepared to fight Whitebeard, and rely on your strength." Garp laughed and said, "Of course there is no problem." Whitebeard personally led people to rush into the base, so that all the pirates were very excited, and morale greatly increased. In the alliance of the Whitebeard pirates, Whitebeard is the supreme existence. He alone can bring everyone, just like him. It is a thick thigh, and the rest of the pirates are hair on the legs. As long as the thigh is still there, they will not fail. However, although the morale of the pirates increased greatly, the number of marines far exceeded them, so even if they rushed into the base, they were restricted to a certain area by a large number of marines, and could not continue to advance forward at all. The most fierce one was the battle between marine generals and the captains of the Whitebeard pirates. There were casualties between each other. One of the Whitebeard pirates was abolished by the two Vice Admiral of Marine. But one of Marine Vice Admiral also died in battle. Vice Admiral, the Ghost Spider under Akainu, was also very miserable. He was completely beaten by Beasta and had a lot of wounds on his body. This is not surprising. Although the Ghost Spider was fine, he faced the Whitebeard pirates. The strongest swordsman in China. This foil is a genius swordsman who can be compared with Hawkeye. Even 19 years ago, he was not a Ghost Spider that could contend. Porusalino and Kuzan have a lot of advantage, but it's not that easy for them to completely end their opponents, especially after Marco rushed in and rushed directly to Kuzan, forcing Kuzan to continue back. After Whitebeard rushed in, he started to kill, and saw him swinging a large pheasant knife. Every time he swung the knife, there was a vibrating force. The surrounding marine did not have his enemy, and all were smashed into the air. With one's own efforts, a large area has been opened up, making the pirates' range of activities much larger. Gum la la la. The battlefield was full of Whitebeard's laughter. The world's #1 large pirate was like a prehistoric behemoth, fierce and invincible. Even General Marine could not resist his attack. In just 1 minute, many marines died tragically. In his hands, Invincible dominates the audience. Monster, monster. Facing such horror in Hockey's Whitebeard, many cowardly marine soldiers stepped back in horror and dared not to besiege Whitebeard again. Even if the commander in front shouted, they could not arouse their confidence. The pirate forces headed by Whitebeard pushed forward quickly, forcing Marine to retreat. With the power of Whitebeard alone, they even completely equalized the disadvantage. Don't retreat, no matter how good Whitebeard is, it's only one person. Let's go together and kill him. A dozen Marine officers shouted inspiringly, and then set an example, and rushed to Whitebeard first. Whitebeard laughed, the big pheasant cut out a half-moon arc, and the amazing power smashed all the dozen or so officers into the air. Can't live anymore. It's really a monster. At this moment, Marine, who was already scared, became more scared. I was forced to this level by Whitebeard alone. Crane Vice Admiral's complexion was also shocked. Even if the pirates rushed into the base, she didn't care much, but now seeing the Whitebeard show Kamui, no one is invincible. The key is to seriously hit Marines. Morale. This is what worries her most. If an army loses its morale, how can it continue to fight? Garp, you are ready. If it doesn't work, you will be the only one to play. Garp was the last trump card she kept. If it weren't for the desperate situation, she really didn't want to use it. After all, she didn't know if Whitebeard had any hole cards, so she had to hold a card in her hand to be more at ease. Don't use me, that kid Sakazuki is here, Garp said suddenly. I saw Kamui at Whitebeard's big exhibition, and when he was flying countless pirates, he suddenly felt a hot breath. He did not hesitate, and his backhand was a punch. Boom. The sound of the collision sounded, and the vigor was splashing. The people around were forced to retreat by the strong chi. Only Whitebeard and Akainu were left. The Crimson Magma punch and Whitebeard's punch collided together, and there was no one, no matter who. Goo la la la. Whitebeard looked at Akainu who was punching him, and laughed loudly. Magma kid, he's a little better than he was a few years ago. Akainu shouted grimly. This is just the beginning. With that, he smashed at Whitebeard again. Although his figure was far worse than Whitebeard, his strength was not weak. After approaching Whitebeard, he punched at extremely fast speed, making Whitebeard unable to condense. vibrating force, launch a big move. Of course, Whitebeard is not afraid to fight close to Akainu. Although his shock fruit is powerful, in fact, he does not completely rely on this fruit to dominate the new world. His hockey and physical skills are definitely new world. At the top, when he was fighting for hegemony with Roger and Golden Lion, he relied more on this kind of physique to fight. The terrified marine soldiers, seeing Akainu fighting Whitebeard together, and not falling into the wind, they all shouted in excitement. When Whitebeard showed Kamui just now, they really frightened them. Now they see Akainu can fight. Whitebeard's confrontation made their fear greatly weakened. Akainu originally wanted to fight Whitebeard at his own speed, but after he really fought, he realized that, despite the fact that Whitebeard is like a giant, his speed is not slow, and because of his size, it makes him more powerful. Strong, even if Akainu used all his power, it couldn't break Whitebeard's defense at all. Boom. Akainu and Whitebeard collided again. The two played for several minutes, but no one could do anything about it. It really surprised many people, marine and pirates. After all, Akainu is a new generation marine admiral, but Whitebeard has been famous for decades and is now the strongest big pirate. If marine hero Garp and Whitebeard fight like this, everyone will not be surprised, but Akainu, in the eyes of many people, he shouldn't be Whitebeard's opponent. But this is only in the eyes of others. The two are evenly matched, but in fact only Akainu knows that he has gradually been unable to withstand Whitebeard's fist. Whitebeard's power is stronger than him, and even though he can't fight quickly because of the rapid fight, condensed stronger vibration power, but Whitebeard punched and kicked, still full of explosive vibration power. It only took a few minutes to fight, but Akainu's hands were numb. He and Whitebeard didn't use armament hockey in their fight, because they didn't think that armament hockey could play a big role. Akainu was not elemental, and it was impossible to use armament hockey. Restrained Whitebeard's ability, so the two naturally won't waste energy to use hockey, which has little effect on each other. In a short period of time, Akainu knew that it was impossible for him to beat Whitebeard in close combat. Whitebeard had more experience than him, his strength was stronger, and his speed was no slower than him. In the end, he must be the one who suffers. Knowing that there is no way to do it, it is not a wise move, so Akainu is ready to give up close fighting with Whitebeard and use his abilities to continue fighting with Whitebeard, so he slams a punch with all his strength, and then quickly retreats, preparing to get away from Whitebeard, but... Little devil, didn't your father teach you? Do it with lousy, shrinking will only make you die faster. Seeing that he was about to pull away, Whitebeard took a step forward, extremely fast, and grabbed Akainu's left leg. Oops. The moment his left leg was grasped, Akainu was shocked and wanted to use his ability to get out, but he couldn't do it at all. Whitebeard grabbed Akainu's left leg, lifted Akainu's burly body, and then hit the ground heavily, directly blasting out a big hole. Akainu just felt that his body was smashed and he was unaware. Whitebeard's power was really terrifying. At this time, Whitebeard didn't stop his hand. He raised his other hand, and white air pressure appeared around his fist. Cover. Boy, die in Lousy's hands, and you are not at a loss. Whitebeard yelled and thumped Akainu on the ground with his fist with a gas hood. Under Akainu's furious gaze, he slammed it down mercilessly. Sakazuki Admiral. The Marines who saw this scene were all shocked. Even Marine Vice Admiral like Paluzolino and Kuzan were all shocked. Oops. Garp exclaimed and was about to rush over, but he was grabbed by Vice Admiral, and he said anxiously, "Little Crane, what are you doing with me? Sakazuki is going to be killed by Whitebeard." Suru Vice Admiral said, "You are too late in the past, and Sakazuki is not as fragile as you think. If he is only at this level, why should he have the courage to challenge Whitebeard? Do you think he is that kind of stunned?" Garp was startled, thinking that what Vice Admiral said was reasonable, so he hesitated and didn't rush over. Looking at Whitebeard's fist getting closer and closer, it was a fist with a gas pressure shield. If it hits his head, it will be half disabled even if it is immortal. The current Whitebeard is not the disabled when fighting against Blackbeard. The body, now he is the peak moment, there are not many people in the world who can block its full blow. It's just that he was just hit by Whitebeard's kick and hit the ground, his body seemed to be out of control, and Whitebeard pressed his body with hockey. He couldn't dodge the punch at all. His face was full of hideous expressions, his expressions squeezed together, and he let out an unwilling roar. Flame control. Boom. Whitebeard's fist fell and a shocking explosion exploded. The entire ground shook. The powerful aura swept the surrounding area of several tens of meters. The pirates and marine who fought on the edge were all lifted by this force. In the center, a deep pit with a range of several meters has been clearly sunk. One can imagine how powerful this blow is. Sakazuki Admiral was killed. Many Marines couldn't see Akainu. They thought that Akainu was killed by Whitebeard. All of them were unbelievable. But some people frowned slightly, such as Whitebeard, because he was the only one who saw Akainu's last action. No, Akainu didn't actually move, but there were other changes, and a patch of his own arm appeared. Pieces of burns. This is the traces of burns by magma. A few seconds later, suddenly Whitebeard's face changed and he quickly took a step back, but his movements were still a little slower. The deep pit he smashed out was like a volcanic eruption, and the lava rose into the sky, behind Whitebeard. The coat was touched by the lava and burned quickly. Whitebeard frowned and flung out the burning coat, revealing a sturdy body. Surprisingly, although Whitebeard's predecessor was covered with various scars, his back was smooth and there were no scars. Dark Hound. Among the lava rising into the sky, a figure formed of magma suddenly appeared. An amazing lava sprayed out and rushed to Whitebeard in the blink of an eye. Boom. The lava fist did not hit Whitebeard, but was blocked by the big pheasant knife. The lava was splashed, but nothing could touch Whitebeard. Akainu walked out of the erupting magma and recovered to the original state, but a little blood shed from his forehead. Although he was not killed by Whitebeard, he was also injured a little. It's Sakazuki Admiral. Sakazuki Admiral was not killed. Seeing that Akainu was not killed, the soldiers shouted in excitement, and the generals were relieved. Whitebeard looked at Akainu with a cold look in his eyes, and slowly said, "Boy, I didn't realize that you developed lava fruit to such a degree. I really underestimated you." Akainu said, as expected of Whitebeard, the #1 pirate in the world. This is a heartfelt admiration for him. He was indeed beaten miserably just now. Whitebeard at his peak was really terrifying. If he hadn't used the flame control that he had spent a few years to study just now, it would be impossible to be killed. But it will definitely be seriously injured. Flame control is the method he created to control magma based on the Inferno-style technique in Hokage Ninja. Because magma is also a natural element, but it is actually physical, so he can directly control magma, even when he is bound. This trick can also be used when there is no way to move. He was hit on the ground by Whitebeard before, unable to elementify and leave, and he had to face Whitebeard's full blow. He knew that if Whitebeard hit the body directly, it would be useless even with armament hockey protection, so he could only use the add-on life technique, blocking Whitebeard's fist from his body. This move did indeed have an effect, blocking him from most of the impact, but it was only slightly injured. This kid Sakazuki has 2 blows. He was able to block Whitebeard's attack head-on and made progress. Garp saw that Akainu was okay, and immediately laughed proudly. He can have this kind of ability, and I have a lot of credit, wow ha ha ha. Suru Vice Admiral also breathed a sigh of relief and said, Sakazuki has indeed grown a lot in the past few years, but his personality has not changed, but he has also angered Whitebeard. Garp, you are ready to accept him. Although Akainu's performance is remarkable, she does not think that Akainu can really rival Whitebeard. She has been a Marine for decades. She still knows how powerful Whitebeard is. At this level, it's just started. Akainu quickly retreated, and distanced himself from Whitebeard. After playing against Whitebeard for so long, he found that Whitebeard's strength was really terrifying. He had already exerted all his strength and was still being beaten by Whitebeard. This let him know his strength is a bit worse than Whitebeard. He also knows his abilities. It seems that he has gained a lot of abilities from the system. Conqueror's Haki has obtained them, but Conqueror's Haki and Observation Haki can't directly reflect his strength, especially when fighting against people like Whitebeard. In addition, he also got 2 skill books, but really speaking, compared to the Akainu in the anime more than 10 years later, he really doesn't know who is strong and who is weak. After all, the Akainu in the anime is after years of fighting and training. At least his physical strength is much stronger than he is now. More importantly, the current Whitebeard is not the scarred and diseased Whitebeard 20 years later, who entered his old age. At that time, Whitebeard was able to beat the later Akainu. Now Whitebeard is at its peak. Akainu is not his. The opponent is also normal. To fight Whitebeard, other methods must be used. Akainu waved his hand to the people behind, and someone immediately brought Carl, the pirate captain who had been crushed on the high platform, over. He grabbed Carl by the neck and said coldly, Whitebeard, are you here for him? Carl. Seeing that Akainu actually took out Carl to threaten Whitebeard, many pirates suddenly yelled in anger. At the same time, some Marines frowned, and they all felt that Akainu's behavior was a bit despicable. Father, don't worry about me. Kill this bastard, kill him, Carl shouted. Whitebeard looked angry, but he was not an ordinary person. He only heard him say coldly, Boy, if you dare to move my child, Lousy will kill you by himself. Akainu grinned, showing a cruel smile, and suddenly reached out to house Carl's shoulder and twisted hard. What? A hand was broken abruptly, but Carl just screamed, then resisted the pain and stopped squeaking. Father, don't care about me, you can come to save me, I'm dead without regrets, don't be threatened by this despicable guy anymore. Although Whitebeard didn't make a sound, the murderous aura he burst out was amazing, and he locked Akainu firmly. Magma Imp, you're also a Marine Admiral anyway, you only have this ability, can you only threaten with hostages? Akainu smiled coldly, and suddenly did something that was beyond everyone's expectations. He lifted Carl up, threw it hard, and threw it in the direction of Whitebeard. Father, be careful of fraud. Even Carl himself was shocked by this action, but thinking of Akainu's past cunningness, he hurriedly reminded Whitebeard. Hearing Carl's yelling, Whitebeard did not move, but Marco rushed over and caught Carl. Unexpectedly, there was nothing wrong with Carl and Marco, except that Carl was caught by his arm. Broken and painful. Fine? Even Carl himself was a little dazed, so letting him go so easily, it's not like what Akainu did. When Marco saw that Carl was okay, he relieved him and Carlton ran up to Whitebeard excitedly. Puff. Carl rushed in front of Whitebeard, bent his legs and knelt in front of Whitebeard, crying bitterly. Father, I am sorry. I am sorry everyone. Let everyone work hard for me, I deserve to die. These words are indeed what he thought in his heart. He is really in pain at the moment. He has been on the high platform watching his brothers die for him, but he can't do anything. Even now, he is locked in seastone shackles. At the same time, it is inconvenient to move. Whitebeard pressed his big hand on his head, and Whitebeard, who was previously domineering, showed warmth. Since you have joined my staff, it is my child, my relative, and someone bullied you. Of course, my dad has to help you. As for the others, you can ask them, who regrets it. Because the battle between Whitebeard and Akainu attracted all attention, Marine and the pirates suffered heavy losses and were affected by many people, so they all temporarily stopped fighting and retreated to their own camp. Of course, Marine still surrounded the pirates. In the middle, they are not allowed to retreat. When the pirates heard the conversation between Whitebeard and Carl, they all yelled. Carl, how did your kid become like this, crying and crying, it's so embarrassing. Haha, yes, Captain Carl, you are too embarrassed. Carl, we are brothers, that bastard Akainu dares to bully you, we will avenge you together later. The laughs and ridicules of the pirates moved Carl's heart very much. Whether they were looking at the face of the old man or the Brotherhood, since everyone can come for him, he must be sincere. Gratitude. Carl was touched, but he quickly remembered more important things. He hurriedly said to Whitebeard, Father, Marine is deliberately drawing you in and preparing to kill us all. We still have many brothers in Marine's hands. US. Okay, don't talk about it anymore, I already know it. Whitebeard patted Carl on the shoulder and said, I already know the purpose of Marine. As for your brothers, I will also rescue them all. Marine wants to kill Lousy. They don't have the skills yet, mum la la la. Looking at Whitebeard with a confident face, Akainu suddenly said in a mocking tone. Whitebeard, sometimes self-confidence is not a good thing, just like now, burst. With Akainu's scream, Carl in front of Whitebeard suddenly burst into an astonishing explosion. Carl's expression of consternation was too late to appear, and the whole person was swallowed by magma, followed by a more astonishing explosion, just like a volcanic eruption, swallowing all the tall Whitebeard. This amazing scene happened instantly, so that everyone in the base, Marine, pirates, except Akainu, no one reacted. They only heard Akainu shout, and then Carl didn't know what happened. An astonishing magma explosion erupted from him, swallowing Whitebeard, and even Marco, who was closer, was affected. Father. The nearest Marco was the first to react. He looked at the magma erupting in front of him, his face full of disbelief. The rest of the pirates also screamed and rushed to the surroundings of Whitebeard, but no one dared to get close to the magma range. They were all excitedly waiting for Whitebeard's response. All the pirates are unbelievable. They don't know what's going on. Why Carl will explode and produce a magma explosion. They know that the magma must come from Akainu, but Akainu didn't move at all. Drinking can control the magma eruption, and it is still such a long distance? This is simply impossible. Crack, crack, crack. Several weird sounds sounded, and then I saw Whitebeard's location. The surrounding void was cracked, and then all the magma around him was blasted away, revealing Whitebeard's figure. Whitebeard looked miserable at this time. There were burn scars in many parts of his body, especially his iconic meniscus Whitebeard. One side was burned, and only one side of the beard was left. It looked very illegal. With Magma Kid, you damn it. Whitebeard let out an angry roar, and an astonishing haki erupted from him, and many marines and pirates around him fell down with Byakugan glowing. An angry Whitebeard directly released Conqueror's haki, and didn't care about his subordinates. They were all within the scope of his haki, but his anger was not because Akainu injured him, but Akainu killed his child. In front of him, kill Carl, so that he has no chance of rescue. Despicable marine, who used such an insidious method, really damn it. The pirates also pointed at Akainu angrily and yelled. They thought that there might be a trap on Carl, but when they came into contact with Marco, there was no problem. They didn't expose the trap until they came to Whitebeard. They didn't know what was going on, but it was Marine Admiral, Akainu, who caused all this to happen. Sure enough, even if all the blasting charms were used, they wouldn't be able to seriously hurt Whitebeard. Whitebeard looks like there are many burns on his body, but Akainu knows that these are just skin injuries. The power of the bursting charm is relatively strong compared to ordinary people, but for Whitebeard at the peak, it is almost meaning, even if it is he used 8 explosive charms at once, and it also only caused Whitebeard to suffer minor injuries. Carl is a card in his hand, used to deal with Whitebeard's card, but the means he deployed, besides himself, it is absolutely impossible for anyone to discover. Carl is a clever person, but no matter how clever he is, he can't guess the truth of the matter. The blasting talisman is controlled by Akainu himself. Marco is not his target, so he did not activate the blasting talisman until Carl came into contact with Whitebeard. And because of distressed Carl, emotions fluctuated, observation haki got out of control, and he activated the explosive talisman for the first time. This series of designs went very smoothly. The only pity is that the power of the bursting talisman is not good. If there are dozens of more, it may really be possible to kill Whitebeard. Although it was a pity that Whitebeard did not kill Whitebeard, Akainu was not too disappointed. He also injured Whitebeard. Seeing that Whitebeard's beard was burned by him, how many people in the world could do this kind of result? I really didn't see that this kid Sakazuki is not only insidious, but also this way. How did he do it? Put magma on the pirate. Impossible, right? Seeing that Akainu was really overcast, Whitebeard, and almost injured Whitebeard seriously, Garp's eyes widened and he really looked at Akainu with admiration. Because he has always felt that Akainu has the strength, but it is far worse than Whitebeard, and cannot be Whitebeard's opponent, but as far as it seems, Akainu has not suffered a big loss in the hands of Whitebeard, instead, it is Whitebeard. Being sullied by him, not only was he injured, but even the bones of the subordinates who he valued were lost. Well, there are some tricks. Whitebeard is angry. He Vice Admiral was not as optimistic as Garp, because she saw that Whitebeard was already angry. Whitebeard is really angry, so angry, he can't remember how long he hasn't been so angry, even if countless pirates died before, he is not so angry, because this is war, he has experienced countless times, and he has long been hardened. Like a rock. But now it's different. Akainu used methods to harm him and even used his subordinates' lives as bait. This was something he couldn't bear, so he was completely furious. Marine. Not only the anger at Akainu alone, but also the entire marine. I saw Whitebeard suddenly raised his hands and bent his fingers, as if he was grabbing the air, and the void in front of him was actually caught by him. When Marco saw this scene, he immediately exclaimed, "Everyone immediately stay away from the old man." The pirates are all panicking away from Whitebeard. Even the members of the Whitebeard pirate group, only a few people know how powerful it is. When Akainu saw Whitebeard's movement, his eyes jumped, his heart was shocked, and he shouted, "Everyone grasps everything that can be grasped, and stabilizes the body." It's just that Marine didn't understand the meaning of Akainu's words at all, and Whitebeard had already pulled down with both hands forcefully. In an instant, the world turned upside down, and the whole world seemed to be turned upside down. Most people were dizzy and unable to control their bodies. What's more terrifying is that the sea around the island seems to have turned over. The huge waves like a tsunami hit all around the island. It was not a very big island, and it was in crisis. As for the buildings in the base, not to mention, they have collapsed by 50 to 60%, and only the strong defensive walls are still supporting them. This earth-shaking continued for dozens of seconds, and when everything was calm, most people stood up shaking their heads. As this? How is it possible? Is this still our base? The marine soldiers all looked at the messy base in amazement. The base they had guarded for many years was destroyed by Whitebeard's blow. Countless people died tragically in this shock. There were cracks everywhere. In the collapsed building, many people fell in the shock just now and were crushed in the vast building ruins. Is this the power that humans can have? Not only the base island, but the surrounding sea is also surging. This is also seen by many people. One can imagine how amazing Whitebeard's move has caused. Compared to Marine, the pirates also suffered a lot of deaths and injuries in the shock, but they were much better than Marine. Whitebeard. The tragedy of the base made Akainu also furious. This base island was already far from the naval headquarters base in Marineford. If Whitebeard comes back for a few more times, I am afraid that the island will really be sunk. By then, most of them may be overwhelmed. People must be buried. In such a crisis, how could Akainu not be angry? In his opinion, Whitebeard is really crazy. If the island is really sunk, the pirates will also be buried with him. Doesn't Whitebeard understand this? When Akainu was furious and ready to take action, Garp also stood up. He was also Marine, so naturally he couldn't watch Whitebeard just destroy Marine base like this, so he was also ready to take action against Whitebeard. But at this moment, several people in the base changed their faces, and instantly looked up, only to see something that didn't know anything crashed out of the air. Quickly get out of the way. Akainu didn't have time to take care of Whitebeard. He rushed to the distance, grabbed a few Marines and threw it out. Then he quickly hid to the other side, but even if he reached the ultimate speed, he couldn't save everyone. Boom. There was a loud noise, like a meteorite falling from the sky. The location of the fall created a terrifying power. Many pirates and Marines did not have time to evade and were hit. In an instant, the ground seemed to vibrate. Although it couldn't compare with the momentum created by Whitebeard, it was also very shocking. What happened? What has fallen from the sky? The successive events have stopped Marine and the pirates from fighting. All eyes are focused on the pit that was smashed out. It is a huge pit, and it looks very strange. It is a bit like a human-shaped pit. Hole. When Whitebeard saw the human-shaped pothole, he was startled at first, then he changed his previous anger and smiled. Hey, it's that guy, he would come to this place. When everyone was in a state of uncertainty, a giant hand suddenly emerged from the pit, grabbed the ground at the edge of the pit, and then slowly, another hand came out, and finally revealed a huge hand. Humanoids. This is. When this humanoid creature appeared in the eyes of everyone, countless people took a breath for it, even Akainu. They all looked terrified, because although he had never seen this person, he knew who he was. Kaido. Suddenly a pirate of the Whitebeard pirate group exclaimed, "It's Kaido, the four emperors like the old man, Kaido." The name Kaido is like magic. Whether it is pirate or marine, after hearing the name, they all showed an incredible expression, as if they could not believe their eyes and ears. How is it possible? How could four emperors Kaido of New World appear here? Marines shouted. Although Kaido is just a new pirate four emperors, it is a bit worse than the older generation of Whitebeard, but some time ago it was the fiercest time of the four emperors battle. The beast Kaido fully demonstrated his invincibility to the world in his posture. Countless pirate groups were pushed horizontally by him alone. What's more terrifying is that no one can kill him, and it is difficult to even get him injured. With unrivaled momentum, he has become one of the four emperors of New World. The reputation of the four emperors Kaido is strong enough and domineering enough, but how could such a big figure appear in the battlefield of the Marine and Whitebeard pirates? Did the four emperors Whitebeard and Kaido join forces? At the moment when they saw Kaido, many people at Marine had such thoughts, and then their faces were very ugly. A Whitebeard is already so difficult to deal with. If you add a beast Kaido, the two are ready. Swallow them all? Kaido. A huge wave turned up in Akainu's heart. He thought about countless possibilities, but never thought that Kaido would appear here. It was true that he had never thought of such a possibility, but now it is true. Happened. Trouble. Trouble. Almost when Akainu thought of this, Crane Vice Admiral also said with an extremely heavy expression. Yes, it is indeed a big trouble. Garp's face has lost the lightness and laziness he used to have, and his expression is extremely solemn. Their lineup is okay against the four emperors, but if the two pirate emperors, Whitebeard and Kaido, join forces, they will be wiped out today. It's the Marine. Sengoku's calculations have failed, and the battle of life and death is coming. Xiaohei, no matter what happens later, you must be careful to protect yourself. If you can't do anything, leave immediately. Garp has never experienced any kind of battle. Although the crisis is extremely high at this time, he is not nervous. The only thing he is more worried about is the safety of Vice Admiral. He doesn't want the slightest accident of Vice Admiral. Vice Admiral glanced at him and said, "I'm not the kind of old guy who doesn't have the power to bind a chicken, so you don't need to worry about it." In addition to Garp and Crane, Vice Admiral, Paluzolino and Kuzan are also shocked. Today's battle situation is really ever-changing. They were already at an advantage. The moment Kaido appeared, the advantage turned into a disadvantage. Roar. Kaido stared at him and made a roar like a beast, and then yelled. Why didn't you fight? Come on, come to me, you trash, come and kill me. The Marines looked at Kaido very vigilantly, but Kaido's opening made them stunned. What the hell? How can anyone let others kill themselves? Now that Kaido has just become 4 emperors, he is not as well known as he was later, so many people don't know his situation very well, but Akainu knows very well that this is indeed Kaido's character, because suicide is what he has been doing all the time. It's just that I didn't expect to come here today to kill myself. And he didn't know whether Kaido really came to kill or had another purpose, so he didn't take any immediate action. He just looked at Kaido vigilantly. Although he was jealous, he was not too nervous. No one else spoke. Instead, Whitebeard spoke first. He shouted to Kaido, Kaido, what are you doing here? It's Whitebeard, you old fellow. Kaido heard Whitebeard's voice and turned his head to look at Whitebeard. Only then did the big guy see him clearly. Kaido's body is tall and burly, about the height of Whitebeard, like a little giant, with black hair and shawl, a pair of horns on his head, and a long beard like a dragon's beard on his mouth. His upper body is naked and his left arm has with dragon scale tattoos and wearing a pair of casually matched pants. The whole person looks like a demon, and the momentum is compelling. Old guy, I heard that you were at war with Marine, so I'll see if anyone can kill me. Why? Have you not finished the fight yet? When Whitebeard saw Kaido, he felt pain in his head. He snorted coldly, can't you tell? Kaido looked around and then grinned. Old guy, it seems that you are really old, so old that you can't clean up this bunch of clutter? There was a loud shout and the sound was deafening, making the ears of many people around them roaring, and with the amazing vigor, they forced the people around to retreat uncontrollably. Kaido, this is the place where our Marine and the Whitebeard pirates battled out. What do you want to do here? The appearance of Kaido has seriously affected the battle between the two sides. As the highest-ranked Akainu here, he must ask about Kaido's purpose at this time, and then formulate a combat strategy. Kaido heard Akainu's words, and his gaze shifted from Whitebeard to Akainu's body. After thinking for a while, Kaido asked, You are the new Marine Admiral, Akainu? Just as Akainu has never seen Kaido, Kaido has never seen Akainu either. But after Akainu became Marine Admiral, his photos naturally spread out. As one of New World's big pirates, he can ignore other Marines' other things. Trends, but the new Marine Admiral is bound to be the enemy, so it is natural to pay attention to it. Kaido, tell your purpose. Regarding Kaido, who is also a pirate, Akainu is afraid, but his tone is the same. The pirate is a pirate. Even if Kaido is one of the 4 emperors of New World, his appearance may bring a heavy blow to Marine. But it is impossible for him to have a polite conversation with the pirate. Kaido shouted, Laozi came from killing, but, Akainu, what are you, dare to question Laozi? Before becoming the 4 emperors, Kaido was notoriously domineering. Now as one of the pirate emperors of New World, his aura is even greater. Even if Akainu becomes the new Marine Admiral, he still hasn't been taken seriously by him. Akainu's face was blue. If it wasn't for Whitebeard's side, he would have rushed to give Kaido a punch right away, but now that the 2 pirate emperors exist at the same time, Whitebeard can't wait to kill him, so he naturally wouldn't act rashly. Go and see if the other pirates from Beast's Pirates follow along with Kaido. The crane in the back, Vice Admiral, suddenly remembered something, and immediately called a Colonel Marine who was behind him, and asked him to send people around the base island to check the situation. Although Kaido is the captain of Beast's Pirates, he is often alone. If he is alone, it is okay. If even Beast's Pirates comes, we will think about how to retreat. Garp nodded. He is also very clear about the situation at the moment. They do have an advantage against Whitebeard, but if you add a Beast's Pirates, the situation will change drastically. He doesn't care much, but ordinary soldiers. It's dangerous. You stay here, I'll go first. Kaido is here, and Akainu alone is definitely unable to stand up, so he must show up, not only to deter the pirates, but also to bring enough confidence to the Marine side. In terms of arrogance and dominance, Akainu is no less than Kaido, so he also releases Conqueror's Haki and rushes towards Kaido. Only Laozi can blow you up. He admits that he can't beat Whitebeard, but if it is Kaido, even if Kaido has the strongest defense, his lava fruit is not a vegetarian. It really fights, who wins and who loses, who lives and who will die, still say no quasi. Akainu's Haki can definitely be ranked in the forefront of the world, so even if Kaido comes into contact with this Haki, his pupils shrink, but then he shouts, then you can try it. Kaido is Kaido. It doesn't make sense at all. After saying this, he didn't say hello, and suddenly hit Akainu with a punch. Naturally, Akainu wouldn't be counseled, and the lava giant fist also greeted him. Boom. The collision of the lava fist and Kaido's fist produced no difference compared to the time when Akainu just hit Whitebeard, because Kaido completely confronted Akainu's magma with his fist, and was not afraid of being burned by the magma. The two of them exerted their full strength at the same time, and there was a second roar. The ground between the two of them was cracked apart, and there appeared spider web-like cracks, and more and more. Boom. Both Kaido and Akainu were in the same position where they were standing, until the lava punch disappeared and the two stopped. After closing, Akainu's face was blue, because Kaido didn't have to move half a step, but he took a step back. In other words, he was actually a little worse in the confrontation of this blow, not because of anything else, but lost to Kaido in strength by half. Akainu was upset, but he didn't know. Kaido was also shocked. He knew how much power he had just used. But Akainu took his power head on and only took a step back. With this alone, Akainu is already better than 99% of the people in New World are much stronger. I was going to come to Whitebeard, but you are not bad, come on. Naturally, Akainu would not be persuaded. Although this war was prepared for Whitebeard, since Kaido is here, he will definitely not just watch the show. Like Whitebeard, he is Marine's archenemy. If he can fight here, if he solves it, it will be no less than the victory of destroying Whitebeard. Boom. Just as Akainu was about to do it, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Garp Vice Admiral, it's Garp Vice Admiral. What appeared in front of Akainu was Garp, who had been sitting behind him. When the Marines saw Garp finally appeared, they all shouted in excitement. They were first shocked by Whitebeard's power, and now they are restrained by Kaido's domineering, even though Akainu is capable of it. Enemy, but after all, Akainu just became Marine Admiral, and his prestige in Marine is relatively limited. But Garp is different. This veteran Marine is a Marine hero, the face of Marine, and the belief of most Marine soldiers. His appearance is far more exciting than the current Akainu and filled them with confidence. Garp Vice Admiral finally made a move, and we are determined to win. The Marines at this base are basically Marine elites, at least they are soldiers who have been in Marine for several years, so they can be said to have grown up listening to the legend of Garp, and they have a blind trust in Garp, just like Whitebeard. The pirates of the Pirate League have almost the same blind trust in Whitebeard. Garp Vice Admiral. The appearance of Garp made Akainu breathe a sigh of relief. He was already struggling against Whitebeard alone. Now Kaido appears. He can only deal with one of the two. As for the others, even Paluzolino, it is difficult now. Against these two people, Garp appeared at the right time. As for why Garp has shot again now, Akainu can also understand. After all, Marine has always been in the upper hand before, and he has not lost the battle with Whitebeard. There is absolutely no need for Garp to shoot so early. Of course, the most important thing is to prevent the Whitebeard pirates from counterattacking. If Garp and Akainu join forces to fight Whitebeard, Whitebeard will go crazy. It is absolutely possible to sink the entire island, so even they don't want to force Whitebeard from the beginning. Desperately, but Akainu consumes Whitebeard's physical strength. But the appearance of Kaido completely disrupted their rhythm and plan, and Garp had to come out to fight. Sakazuki, these two, do you pick one? Compared to Akainu's dignity, Garp suddenly smiled and said to Akainu, as if there was no pressure at all. Akainu, who was still a little stressed, saw Garp's expression and couldn't help but flip through Byakugan. This guy is just like Luffy in the anime. He is completely heartless, he is so old and he hasn't grown up at all. Why don't you leave both to you? Garp almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. Well, he made fun of Akainu with the idea of letting Akainu relax, but he didn't expect to be teased by Akainu instead, and gave him both. One is already choking, and playing two will kill him. Don't talk nonsense, Whitebeard. I've dealt with him many times, and it's boring to fight again. That old kid will be handed over to you. This Kaido kid will be handed over to me. Get out of here. Akainu curled his lips silently. He had decided on his own before he chose, but he also agreed with this plan. He still wants to deal with Whitebeard more than Kaido. The copper wall and iron wall of Kaido let Garp, the Iron Fist, deal with it best. Akainu and Garp made a private distribution, but Whitebeard and Kaido have not yet reached an agreement. Kaido is not the backhand prepared by Whitebeard, because it is impossible for him to command Kaido, but Kaido appeared at the right time, giving him an extra hand to choose, so he said to Kaido, Kaido, you and I will join forces. All the Marines here are wiped out, how? As soon as these words came out, both Marine and the pirate present were shocked, and even Akainu, who was about to do it, stopped. Akainu and Garp glanced at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They thought that Whitebeard and Kaido were unanimously preparing to fight against Marine, but now it seems that the two sides did not negotiate in advance. Kaido's appearance was an accident. But even so, they dare not care. Regardless of whether Kaido appears accidentally or not, the identity of the other pirate will not change. The pirate and Marine are rivals. Kaido may not help Whitebeard, but it is absolutely impossible to help Marine. Old Whitebeard, why should I join you? I have always wanted to kill you. Kaido doesn't give Whitebeard any face. He had just fought Whitebeard not long ago, and he didn't mind fighting again. Whitebeard was not angry, and slowly said, "You can fight with me anytime, but you can't at this moment. This is Marine's territory. Do you want to hurt both sides with me and let Marine take advantage of it? This is today. This war is not only our war with Marine, but also the first head-on confrontation between the New World pirates and Marine. You are also a pirate. You have to think clearly about how to choose." Although Kaido is mad and moody, he also knows that, as Whitebeard said, his identity is a pirate. It is absolutely impossible to help Marine fight the Whitebeard pirate group. If he really does that, then but it was about to be cast aside by the pirates of the entire New World. Lousy is not helping you, but this group of Marines really make Lousy look unpleasant. New World is our turf, and it is not yet the turn of Marine to show off here. As he said, he stepped hard on the ground and arrogantly shouted at the surrounding Marines. "Come here, you Marines, let Lousy have a good fight." "Boy, it's not your turn to be arrogant here." Garp stepped forward and walked to Kaido, staring at Kaido sternly. Looking at Garp, Kaido seemed to think of something, his face turned ugly, and said, "You old guy is not dead, but it's not 20 years ago, Garp, you were old." Garp laughed and said, 20 years ago, the old man was able to destroy your pirate group, and now he can still destroy you." Garp and Kaido are both positive and tough people. They just started the fight without saying a few words. The momentum was amazing. Akainu shouted, "Everyone immediately stay away, don't fight close to them." Needless to say, the surrounding Marines have already rushed to escape, because the fighting between the two people is really amazing. Seeing Garp being dragged by Kaido, Whitebeard also seemed relieved. He had known Garp for decades, and he naturally knew how powerful this old opponent was. If he intervened, it would be really difficult for him to take Akainu. Now Garp is dragged live, he can let go. "Marco, the task of command is left to you. I'm going to kill the bastard Akainu and avenge Carl." Whitebeard gave Marcos orders, and then stepped directly to Akainu, where the pheasant slashed at Akainu mercilessly. It's just right. Without Kaido, Akainu will naturally no longer be jealous. As long as you drag Whitebeard and let the others in Marine take action against the pirates, they will surely be able to wipe out the Whitebeard pirate group. The strongest of both sides found each other and launched the most amazing battle. One is Akainu and Whitebeard, and the other is Kaido and Garp. The battlefields of the two sides are very wide, and there is no Marine and pirates who dare to approach. In addition to them, the pirates and Marine are also fighting again, this time more intense than before, because both sides are no longer scrupulous, all want to fight each other to death. The entire Marine branch base can be described as a tumult. There was only shouting and killing, and the ground was stained red with blood. When the fighting between the two sides was the fiercest, the situation here was also spread. Boom. The table in front of Sengoku was slapped to pieces, and the documents on the table were scattered everywhere, but Sengoku, who has always paid great attention to appearance, did not care at all. Instead, he asked the people in front of him in disbelief, "What you said is true?" The soldier in front of him quickly replied, "It's true, the news that just came back can't be wrong." "How could this happen? Why there are no signs at all? What do those intelligence personnel do for food? Why is this happening now?" Sengoku roared angrily, completely devoid of his usual elegance, but no one dared to say anything. At this moment, the phone worm he flew suddenly rang. He didn't want to answer it, but when he saw the appearance of the phone worm, his expression suddenly changed, and his opponent said, "Take him, come over." After tidying up his messy clothes, he took a deep breath, and then Sengoku connected to the phone worm. As soon as he connected, before he could speak, there was a roar from the other side. "Sengoku, what are you doing? Why does Kaido join forces with Whitebeard, and what is going on? There are so many men here, they are slammed." Sengoku's face is very ugly, but he still replied, "I don't know what is going on. I got information. It's just Kaido alone. Beast's pirates didn't join the war." The caller was Mariajoy's military commander Kong. Hearing Sengoku's words, Kong said, "I'm at Mariajoy and 5 elders is also by my side. Such a big thing has happened. You have to explain how you are going to settle it." Of course, The world government has already known about such a big thing, but they think that Marine should be able to deal with the Whitebeard pirates, so they are just paying attention and not helping. But who would have thought that when the war was halfway through, another 4 emperors Kaido appeared. This was Kaido, one of the 4 emperors. It was not an ordinary pirate. It was entirely possible that the battle would be disrupted and Marine would suffer heavy losses. 5 elders and others are more concerned about whether Whitebeard and Kaido are already united. They can tolerate a single 4 emperors, but if the 4 emperors are united, they certainly can't accept it. This is a big event that can make the world turbulent, so I got in touch with Sengoku as soon as I got the news. Sengoku was very uncomfortable in the meticulously planned extermination plan. Now Sora and 5 elders came to question him, making him even more unhappy, but he also knew that his status could not be compared with these few people. Can only endure. I don't know why this happened. I also sent someone to stare at Beast's pirates, but didn't move. So this time it should be an accidental move by Kaido alone. As for whether he is united with Whitebeard, it's not easy to answer in the affirmative now. His words silenced the opposing group for a while, and then a calm voice sounded. Since something has happened, you must find a way to solve it, Sengoku. I don't care what you do. In short, you must not let the world government discredit and let your people do their best. Even if you pay a certain price, you must find a way. To win this battle, if you can get rid of either Whitebeard or Kaido, it's the best, understand? Sengoku said in a deep voice, I know what to do. The voice just said, I hope you don't let us down, otherwise. Before finishing talking, the phone worm hung up, and then Sengoku threw the phone worm out with a sullen expression, looking very angry. 5 elders. Of course, he just roared in his heart and did not vent. Of course he knew what 5 elders meant. Don't look at him as Martial Marine now, but from the attitude of 5 elders, the other party didn't take him seriously. Both inside and outside revealed threats, as if he, Martial Marine, could be ravaged casually. Call. He exhaled heavily. Sengoku forcibly calmed himself down, stopped thinking about 5 elders, and turned to his opponents and said, immediately follow my order and let all Marines in New World go to the G5 branch base to support. I don't care what they are doing now, and no matter what difficulties they have, let them go immediately, immediately, and immediately. If anyone dares to violate the order, let them all get out of me. This time the war was launched according to his wishes, but the process completely exceeded his expectations, so he could only use his best to make up for this mistake, and he would not let anyone dare to stop him at this time. Although Naval Headquarters now has only one large branch in New World, the G5 branch, it does not mean that this is the only strength of Marine. In fact, although the main force of Marine G1 branch has withdrawn, there are still some troops remaining, and there are other secrets. Manpower, intelligence personnel, these add up to a lot of power. Sengoku can't think about other things now, just thinking about using these powers to redeem the disadvantages, but I don't know if it will be too late. Yes. Seeing such a big fire from Sengoku, the soldiers dared to ask more, and immediately ran out to issue orders. After everyone left, Sengoku sat down, but his eyes were very restless, and he sighed faintly, is it because I was too hasty? But fortunately, Garp and Xiaohei are both here, plus Akainu's words, it should be I can handle it, I hope there won't be any major problems. He now knows that he can't help much, so he can only wait quietly for the news, but he still has confidence in Garp. Although this old partner may seem unreliable at ordinary times, he can still get up at critical moments. It's very useful. At the same time, the New World forces also knew about the changes in the Marine base battlefield, which really shocked many people. Kaido's operation was so showy that everyone didn't know whether he did it on purpose. Still intentional, but anyway, Marine really suffered a loss this time, just don't know what the end will be in the end. Withdraw. Let everyone evacuate immediately. Crane Vice Admiral looked serious and quickly issued an order, but this time her order was not for Marine to kill the pirates, but for all the generals to evacuate immediately with their own people. Woohoo! The sound of Marine's horn sounded, making all Marine soldiers' faces change. This is not an offensive horn, but an evacuation horn. Some Marines felt very puzzled, but more soldiers made it in the first time. Decided to get rid of his opponents and quickly moved towards both sides of the base. Boom. A pillar of fire exploded in the air, and endless magma splashed everywhere. The next moment, the pillar of magma was broken up, and the shocking shock blasted the defensive wall into a big hole. Marco and Kuzan split immediately. Kuzan no longer cares about him, but leads the soldiers to evacuate quickly. Others don't know why, but he knows why Crane Vice Admiral wants everyone to evacuate, because the island has already I can't hold it anymore. That's right, Under the battle of the four top powerhouses, this small G5 branch base has reached the point where it is about to collapsed from the inside out. Garp and Kaido are no longer visible in the base. The two of them have gone from inside the base and don't know where they went, but the roar from a distance can foresee the battle between the two. Fierce. And inside the base, a large area has become the battlefield of Akainu and Whitebeard. Within a radius of tens of meters, others cannot approach at all. The entire base's buildings have basically collapsed, and most of the defensive walls have collapsed. What's more terrifying is that the ground is full of cracks, and some cracks can even see more than 10 meters underground. When Marine retreated, the pirates did not chase, because Marine was not defeated and evacuated, but their pirates were at a disadvantage. But Marine's decision to evacuate was more decisive, and the pirates were naturally unwilling to chase and fight. Until now, they don't want to fight anymore. Marco flew into the air and shouted loudly. Everyone evacuated immediately and returned to the pirate ship. The island is about to collapse. Don't love war anymore. Evacuate immediately. Hurry. He actually knows that this island will not last long, but he is not as decisive as Vice Admiral, and has not given an order to retreat. What's more, Whitebeard is still here and he doesn't want to leave. It's just that now even Marine is preparing to evacuate the island, so naturally they will not stay here and wait for death. These four people fight, and will not care about the lives of others at all. Staying here can only wait for death. Captain Marco, our ship is still blocked by ice and cannot be started. The pirates who ran on the boat soon discovered the problem. Akainu used magma to melt the ice around the shore, but their ship was still tens of meters away. The ice there was not melted, so the pirate ship naturally unable to activate. Damn it. Marco yelled angrily. At this time, he didn't expect something went wrong. He shouted angrily. Get off the boat and smash the ice. Fast, slower, it's too late. As a result, a group of pirates hurried down and smashed the ice, but then Marco once again shouted. Get together and smash a few boats. Leave the rest of the boats alone. The base island was shaking more and more, and Akainu also unscrupulously released magma, and magma erupted everywhere. Fortunately, there was no volcano in this place. Otherwise, if Akainu caused a volcanic eruption, then they would be really out of luck. At the moment when life is at stake, a few pirate ships are the most important thing to save their lives, so those pirates chose the largest pirate ships and immediately started smashing the ice with a group of people. I have to say that Kuzan's ice cubes are really powerful. It is difficult for ordinary pirates to break such thick ice cubes. Even if a group of people desperately smash them, the effect is not very good. In the end, a few captains and the powerful pirate captain took the shot, and only smashed a few ships, and then they opened the way, allowing the pirate ships to quickly leave a certain range of the base island. You evacuate first, I will stay here to meet the old man, Marco ordered loudly. The pirates also knew Marco's abilities, so they didn't hesitate to leave quickly in the pirate boat. The Marine on the other side is the same, but they are much better than the pirates. They have already prepared warships around the islands. Even in the chaos, they board quickly and orderly. In just over half an hour, on this base island, there were only the four Akainu who were still fighting and Marco, who was in charge of the Whitebeard pirates. The rest of them boarded the ship, but none of them were left. Leave. There are a total of 10 pirate warships. In fact, there are more than that. However, because of the previous battles, several warships were attacked and lost part of their effectiveness. Therefore, the Crane Vice Admiral decisively abandoned and let everyone board the intact warship. Crane Vice Admiral called Pelusalino and Kuzan over, and said, Perusalino, you lead the fleet to go to the front to destroy the pirates there. Remember, you can sink as much as you can sink. If you can't do anything, leave quickly. Pelusalino immediately led the command. Don't worry, leave it to me, it's just a group of pirates who have fled, and they will definitely be unable to escape. Crane Vice Admiral said, this is the best opportunity. The Whitebeard pirates certainly did not expect that we would attack them at sea and rush to them as quickly as possible. Today's things, although the development is not very smooth, but at this time, she is still able to calmly analyze. Kuzan, you take a few people to stay around and prepare to pick up Garp and Sakazuki. I'm not worried about Garp, but Sakazuki is more dangerous. When we just evacuated, he had already suffered serious injuries and he could not be planted in Whitebeard hands. At this time, there are not many who have the ability and strength to meet Akainu. Pelusalino and Kuzan are the best choices, and Pelusalino is going to ambush the pirates, so this task can only be given to Kuzan. Kuzan said, I will meet him immediately. Then he quickly returned to the base island, ready to pick up Akainu. Crane Vice Admiral looked at the constantly shaking marine base and shook his head helplessly. Even the fortress collapsed. If this battle cannot eliminate the Whitebeard pirates, it will not be considered a victory. Boom. The branch base island is constantly shaking, huge cracks have opened in many places, and the entire island is on the eve of collapse. Akainu and Whitebeard are still fighting. So far, they have been fighting for more than an hour. From the magma around them and the debris everywhere, you can see how fierce the battle between them is. In fact, Akainu didn't want to make this island look like this, but this kind of thing is completely out of his control. During the melee, he still had a little scrupulousness, but now that the pirate and marine have left, he has no scruples, and it is even more frantic. Gradually, even if Akainu didn't want to admit it, he still had to admit that he was almost unable to keep up with Whitebeard's fighting rhythm. Whitebeard's combat experience was obviously much stronger than him. Regardless of them, both of them used big moves frequently, but he consciously controls the rhythm and physical strength, and he is not as careful as Whitebeard, so his physical strength has gradually been unable to keep up. This unfinished battle made Akainu understand a truth. Although strong strength is important, physical strength is also very important. Just like in anime, Akainu and Aokiji can fight for 10 days and 10 nights, even if not all the time. In battle, this can reflect how strong their physical strength is. But now that he has been playing with Whitebeard for more than an hour, he can no longer hold on. In terms of physical strength, he still has a lot of room for improvement. Of course, he consumes a lot of physical strength, but it is not so easy for Whitebeard to defeat or kill him. Wagwoshin. As soon as Akainu gritted his teeth, he was also ready to fight. Anyway, the island has been abandoned and marine has been evacuated. Then he doesn't need to think about other things, and do everything possible to get Whitebeard done. Regardless of the consequences, he played Wagwo Mountain with all his strength, only to see the vast magma covering the ground, and the scorching magma swallowing everything. The soaring lava erupted, completely enveloped Whitebeard. Drink. The amazing crescent blade split the surrounding magma, and Whitebeard slashed once again. Even if Akainu controlled the magma with all his strength, it was still shaken away by the shaking force. Magma Kid, die! Whitebeard roared, and he also used the fruit ability with all his strength, and the impact force that was more terrifying than before hit Akainu fiercely. Pressing both hands on the magma formed a magma defensive wall, but they were blown away one after another, unable to stop the amazing shockwave, and came to Akainu in the blink of an eye. Akainu used armament hockey with all his strength to block Whitebeard's shockwave, but Whitebeard's full shock was not so easy to resist. I saw that his body was constantly pushed back by that force, knocking away one piece after another. The dilapidated building, withdrawing a full tens of meters, completely offset the impact of this blow. Ahem. Akainu coughed violently and started coughing up blood. Although he blocked the blow, he didn't feel well. Several bones in his body were shattered, causing internal injuries, so he coughed up blood. He suddenly raised his head, and saw a shadow hit, and a blade longer than an adult's arm slashed over, and it was about to split Akainu in half by looking at the posture. With red lights flashing in his eyes, Akainu resisted the severe pain and stood up, forcibly holding the blade of the pheasant with one hand, and forcibly blocking the blade's trajectory, but his legs were bent by the force, and under Whitebeard's power, he bends more and more. The blood flowed from Akainu's left-hand tiger's mouth. Although he used armament hockey and abilities to take Whitebeard's knife, the huge power still made his tiger's mouth shake open, bloodshed, and his body was still suffering a huge amount of the pressure made him unable to escape from the knife, and he could only use his own strength to stalemate with Whitebeard. Boy, if it was before, Lousy might still cherish his talents and save you a life, but now, you can only die. Whitebeard pressed Akainu tightly and had time to talk to Akainu, but Akainu had no spare energy to respond. All his power was used to resist Whitebeard. Once he opened his mouth, it would be discouraged. Whitebeard had a chance to take advantage of it, so he could only as if not heard. Even though Akainu used his full strength, his body was constantly pressed down, and the veins on his forehead burst. He knew very well that if he was crushed by Whitebeard, he would not be far from defeat, so even if he tried his best, he had to resist the extra energy. He didn't believe that Whitebeard hadn't consumed it until now. Ice Cube, 2 thorn spears. Just when Whitebeard and Akainu were in a stalemate, Kuzan's voice suddenly came from behind Whitebeard, which made Akainu's spirits startled and looked up. At the same time, Whitebeard also changed his face. If it is a sneak attack by ordinary people, he can ignore it, but Kuzan is not as good as Akainu, but he is also a representative of the new generation of Marine. It must be uncomfortable. At the moment when Whitebeard was slightly lost, Akainu forced his force and swiped his right hand, Dark Hound. Because of the force of the right hand, the left hand naturally couldn't hold the big pheasant knife. The big pheasant knife slashed on Akainu's left shoulder, and blood sprayed Akainu's face, but Akainu didn't care at all, and the Dark Hound from the right fist hit Whitebeard's abdomen. Even if someone like Whitebeard received a full blow from Akainu in the front, his expression was painful and his lower abdomen was bloody, but Whitebeard was Whitebeard. His face, so that the subsequent magma eruption did not have time to use it, he had been shot flying. Father. Kuzan's ice spear did not hit Whitebeard, because Marco of the Whitebeard pirates had already arrived. In an emergency, he blocked Kuzan's 4 ice spears with his body. Even if he used his abilities, he was still nailed, on the ground. Whitebeard covered his abdomen and gave up on attacking Akainu. Instead, he smashed a few ice spears on Marco, and then blasted Kuzan with a punch. The powerful force smashed the rushing Kuzan and then smashed Malcora got up and said in a deep voice, "Marco, take someone away. This island can't hold it anymore." Father, what about you? Marco has the Phoenix Fruit ability, so his injury is not very serious. Whitebeard looked back at Akainu, who was struggling to get up, and said, "I'm going to kill that kid." But at this moment, the ground shook suddenly, and all of Whitebeard's complexion changed and they looked not far away. They only heard an unwilling roar resounding like a dragon, and then they saw a huge dragon of extremely staggering size. The dragon opened its mouth and sprayed out an astonishing breath of heat, coming from a distance, pushing the defensive wall. The buildings were completely destroyed, and they were still attacking where they were. That kid Kaido is crazy. Seeing this dragon, Whitebeard didn't care about Akainu either, and dashed towards the shore with Marco. Kuzan quickly came to Akainu, looked at Akainu, who was covered in blood and scars, and asked, "Sakazuki, how are you?" Still able to hold it. Akainu gritted his teeth. At this time, Kaido's dragon's breath had already struck, and Kuzan used his abilities calmly to freeze the place where he and Akainu were. Kaido's dragon's breath is indeed fierce, blasting the broken base directly into a piece of debris, but after this blow, the vibration of the island has become more intense, which is a sign that it has reached the pre-collapse. Kuzan and Akainu walked out of the ice. Kuzan was okay, but Akainu was more miserable. After he recovered, he saw a long knife scar on his shoulder, which was just cut by Whitebeard's pheasant. In addition, his head was bleeding, his hands were also bloody, and his body was also bruised and swollen. After fighting Whitebeard for more than an hour, Akainu was not defeated, but most of the time he was at a disadvantage. Supported by his tenacious willpower, his current body is also scarred. The trauma was good, and the internal injuries were also not mild. Several bones were interrupted by Whitebeard. I didn't feel it when I was fighting with Whitebeard, but now, he would feel pain when he walked a step. Kuzan wanted to help Akainu, but Akainu refused his kindness. Although he was seriously injured, he was not yet able to stand up until he needed someone to help him. Looking up, Akainu clearly saw that the battle between Garp and Kaido had reached the fiercest moment. Kaido had become a dragon, much larger than Garp, but Garp was worthy of being a first-class existence in Pirate World. At this moment, he was riding on Kaido and punching his fist. Kaido was struck miserably, causing confusion around him. This island is going to be unable to hold on anymore. Let's get on the warship first. Whitebeard had already left with Marco, so Akainu did not hesitate, and left with Kuzan quickly. On the other side, Whitebeard and Marco also came to the front of the mobile, but when they came here, their complexion suddenly became very ugly, because several warships were chasing the pirate ship and there were already several. The pirate ship was ablaze with smoke from the warship. This group of Marines is really lingering. Marco was extremely angry. He didn't expect that he had already withdrawn from the base island. Marine actually went around and chased them, and he happened to catch the moment when he and Whitebeard were not there. It was really a hit. The thieves fell into the water. Daddy is back. Dad is back. In fact, there are still a few pirate ships left. They can escape by themselves, but Whitebeard and Marco are still on the island. They are unwilling to flee alone, so they stay here to continue fighting with marine warships. They have suffered heavy losses. Now seeing Whitebeard and Marco return, the rest of the pirates were very excited. Attack, attack, don't let the pirate run away. Paluzolino could only attack by this warship, and suddenly a warship was overturned by a huge force, which shocked him. Whitebeard. It was Whitebeard who overturned Marine. He used his full power to shake the fruit and directly blasted the nearest warship down. Most of the ships were broken and shattered. Such a terrifying power brought Paluzolino down, shocked. Whitebeard is back. After Whitebeard slammed his punch, his face became very pale, and Marco on the side hurriedly treated him, and said solemnly, "Father, you are seriously injured, you can't use force anymore, otherwise you will get hurt." "This injury is nothing to me," Whitebeard said to Marco. "But now our people have suffered serious losses, and we can no longer entangle with Marine. You immediately notify everyone and leave here quickly." While he was treating Whitebeard, Marco ordered his men to deliver orders. Soon, the pirates who didn't want to continue fighting, all turned the bow of the ship and moved quickly away from the Whitebeard pirates, regardless of Marines chasing artillery fire. The 3 huge ships of USS Mobile stayed behind as cover and attacked the warships. Chasing, don't let them run away. Perusalino issued an order, and the remaining warships immediately chased the pirate ship, chasing and fighting with the pirate ship. Both sides did not take much advantage, but before that, the Marine had been destroyed. A lot of pirates were dropped, so in this sea battle, Marine won. The 2 sides chased for nearly half an hour, and finally Perusalino gave up the pursuit and returned to the base island. "Father, Marine has retired." On the Mobile, Whitebeard sat in a chair and allowed Marco to treat him. After Marine retreated, the rest of the pirates also surrounded him. Many people were surprised to see Whitebeard's injuries. "Father, are you okay?" The 4th Division Captain Saki asked. He was also injured at this time, and he fought with Kuzan for a while, and later fought with the other Marine generals, so there were several wounds on his body, but the heaviest one was Kuzan. The wound left on his back was still not cleared after the bleeding stopped, and he was still a little uncomfortable. Except for Sachi, the pirates who came around were basically injured, even the captains. Many parts of Whitebeard's body were burned by Akainu's magma, but most of them were skin injuries. The most severely injured was the lower abdomen. There was a direct hit by Akainu, bloody. Even a man like Whitebeard would be forbearing, with pain. But looking at the pirates around, Whitebeard laughed and said, "Goo la la la. Look at what you all look like. Lousy is very good. Although the Magma Kid has some skills, but he wants to fight Lousy, it's a far cry." Having said that, the pirates present were shocked when they saw the wound on his body. At the same time, their fear of Akainu reached ultimate. Their father has been in New World for so long, and few people have been able to single out. When Whitebeard was wounded like this, I didn't expect the newly promoted Marine Admiral to be so powerful. "Father, did you kill Akainu?" the pirate asked expectantly. Before Whitebeard spoke, Marco first said, "Originally, the old man was able to kill him, but Marine came to support him. Kaido guy went crazy again. That island can't stay. Only cheap Akainu guy. You too. Don't ask so much. Didn't you see that dad is receiving treatment?" Whitebeard waved his hand indifferently and said, "What is this small injury? When Lousy was fighting with Roger and the others, the injury was much more serious than it is now. Isn't there no problem at all? Marco, your kid just like to exaggerate." Turning his gaze on everyone, his face suddenly sank, and he asked, "Why are you alone? Anyone else?" Upon hearing this question, everyone on the boat fell into silence. All of them bowed their heads and dared not answer. Whitebeard's heart trembled, and a bad premonition hit him. He had been fighting Akainu before, and he couldn't distract himself from paying attention to other people's battles, so it was not clear whether the pirates under his command were killed or not. He took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, "Tell me, how many people were sacrificed?" The captains of the pirate group looked at each other, and then Sachi answered, "The number of the other pirate group killed in battle has not been counted. Our pirate group killed a total of 387 people. The captains of the squad, the 8th squad, the 11th squad, and the 12th squad were all sacrificed." Even if he was mentally prepared, Whitebeard's burly body trembled a few times when he heard these words, and he slumped on the chair, silent. We must know that the total number of members of the Whitebeard pirate group does not exceed 1,000 people. They are all elites. However, this battle lost 40%, and 4 of the captains sacrificed. The loss was very serious. Whitebeard has crossed the New World for so many years. In a battle, he has lost so many times with one hand. Although he is prepared in his heart, it is still a bit unacceptable to hear it. Whitebeard sat in the chair silently. The others were afraid to speak. They also knew what Whitebeard was thinking. This time their loss was indeed very heavy. Even Whitebeard's team had 4 captains who sacrificed. Know what the rest of the pirate group will be like. Have their bodies brought back? After a long silence, Whitebeard finally spoke, looking at the others with bloodshot eyes. Saki nodded vigorously and replied, "I brought it back, but not all of it. We have done our best. Father, it's all my responsibility this time. If I didn't misassess the situation, it wouldn't be like this." Marco suddenly knelt down in front of Whitebeard with a full face of guilt. because this time, besides Whitebeard, he was the one who made the decision, and even commanded more than Whitebeard, so this is the time to say this. Whitebeard scolded. What does it have to do with you? This time it's my carelessness. Marine is stronger than we thought. This time Sengoku also sent Garp over. We didn't have enough preparations, so we ended up like this. Joes yelled. Father, although our losses are very heavy, Marine is not much better, so I personally killed a Marine Vice Admiral, and their Marine generals also killed a lot of people. This is indeed the truth. Although Marine killed several captains of the Whitebeard pirates, it was also piled up with blood. Marine's loss was not less than that of the Whitebeard pirates. Captain Joes is right. Marine not only killed so many people by us, but even the base was destroyed by us. This battle should be regarded as our victory. Someone yelled. Have you won? Whitebeard couldn't help but shook his head secretly when he heard the words, but he didn't say it. At this time, what everyone needed was not the truth, but recognition, and his recognition could make the pirates feel at ease. He knew very well that if Kaido hadn't suddenly appeared this time, they might be in danger. Although they wouldn't be annihilated, they would definitely have suffered more losses than they are now. Therefore, Kaido's unintentional intrusion this time was quite so I helped them a lot. The Marine guys are lucky. If we didn't want to leave someone to guard, we would come together and we would have killed them long ago. Of course, this is also a complaint. Now the situation in New World is unstable. Even if Whitebeard is the leader of the 4 emperors, he dare not leave anyone to guard in his own territory. There are not many pirates in New World who really follow the rules. The number of people who kill you while you are sick is countless. If they bring everyone here this time, even if they win Marine, but their territory is lost, that's it. I really picked up the sesame seeds and lost the watermelon. The gain was not worth the loss. Although I grieve the death of his subordinates in his heart, Whitebeard is a person who has lived for decades after all. He has an extremely tenacious character. He put the grief in his heart and said to everyone, today's battle, I think you have also seen Marine's strength. Do you know what to do in the future? Marco was the first to say, Daddy is right. We were too proud and arrogant before. We thought we were strong enough to sweep the New World, but in fact it is not the case. This is only part of Marine's power, if it is naval headquarters. If all comes, we may not be able to leave today. Some pirates wanted to refute, but they couldn't speak, because Marco was right. Although they didn't use all their strength, the same was true for Marine. Judging from Marine's huge base, the manpower deployed this time was simply not much. Father, we will definitely work harder when we go back, and we will never let today's things happen again. After going through this battle, the pirates all summoned their strength and vowed not to waste time again. Whitebeard was a little relieved. He said, it is good to be able to recognize your own shortcomings. Although this battle has suffered heavy losses, it has also allowed you to grow a lot. And you should also remember one thing. Don't trust others and be treated as guns. So, this time we are the first birds, eat a bite, gain wisdom, and we will be more cautious in the future. Everyone listened to Whitebeard's reprimand very seriously, and it was true. This time they did become the first bird and were regarded as the object of leeway by Marine. The pirates of New World encouraged them to deal with Marine, but the result was only their side of the Whitebeard pirate group was fighting Marine, and none of the other clamoring pirate forces appeared. Those pirate forces who spread rumors over and under, undoubtedly used this opportunity to weaken their strength, not only to weaken their strength, but also to test the bottom line of Marine. This is the result that the pirates of New World want. As for which of them wins and who loses, it is estimated that no one cares too much. In fact, Whitebeard had already understood this before the war started. They were too arrogant, which attracted the fear of the world government and the strength of all parties, especially those pirate forces. Whitebeard's existence is like a mountain, and it is hard to have a chance to weaken it. The power of Whitebeard, for those who are ambitious, can't be better. Knowing that this was the case, he still had to do it, because he couldn't let his subordinates die in vain. He had to ask for an argument, but now it seems that this result has caused him to bear a huge price. Not to mention the Whitebeard pirates that had left, Kuzan and Akainu came to the warship from the island, and the rest of the warships went to chase Marine, leaving only one of the Vice Admiral warships near the shore. Sakazuki, you are badly injured, let someone treat you quickly. Crane Vice Admiral saw the scarred Akainu, his expression was quite concerned, and he quickly asked the medical soldiers to treat Akainu. No matter what Akainu is, she, as a senior in Marine and a senior, naturally does not want Akainu, the new generation of Admiral, to show up. The question, not to mention that Lasana is still in her barracks. Before coming, she promised Lasana to take care of Akainu. Where is Whitebeard? While the medic was treating Akainu, The Crane Vice Admiral looked at Kuzan again and asked. Kuzan shook his head and said, I can't keep him. He has already left here. He should have joined the other pirates. Crane Vice Admiral's expression changed. He arranged for Pelusalino to chase the pirates, but if Whitebeard converged with the pirates, wouldn't it mean that Pelusalino would also be in danger? But the matter was over, and she had no way to get Pelusalino back. She could only let him take command. The surrounding water level has been getting higher and higher, and the interior of the island is also beginning to crack. It will not be long before the island will collapse and sink. It will definitely cause a big tsunami storm at that time. Leave here first. Crane Vice Admiral first looked at the water level, and then at the dilapidated base island. Without hesitation, he immediately ordered the general ship to leave the base island. When Kuzan heard this, he immediately asked eagerly, but Garp Vice Admiral is still on the island. What will he do if we leave? From a dynamic point of view, Garp and Kaido obviously have not yet decided the winner, but he saw Garp beat Kaido before, so he was not worried that Garp would lose, but now the Crane Vice Admiral actually wants to stay away. If the island really sinks, if so, isn't Garp on the island in danger? No, we can't leave. I can use my power to seal the surrounding sea with ice. Suru Vice Admiral shook his head and said, it's useless, this island is going to sink. Your ability is very powerful, but you can't freeze a large turbulent sea area, and there is still Sakazuki's remaining magma on the island. A volcanic eruption may occur. It is not appropriate to wait for Garp alone and put so many people in danger. Seeing that Kuzan wanted to say something, she said, as for Garp's safety, you don't need to worry too much. I know him better than you. As long as we are not far away, with his ability, we can still find us safely. For Garp, she has more confidence than anyone else. Although it is dangerous here, she thinks it will not stump Garp. At this time, Akainu also said, do as the Suru Senpai said. Both the highest level spoke, and this matter was naturally decided. The warship slowly moved away from the base island area. After the warship was far away from the island, Akainu walked into the warship for treatment. He looked a little embarrassed, but the wound on his shoulder was really serious, still bleeding, and the rest were bruises and internal injuries. It's hard to see from the outside. After letting the medical soldiers stop the bleeding, Akainu looked at the dirty clothes on his body, raised his brows, and a little disgusted. He was still a little dirty and didn't like his dirty, thinking that there was cleanliness in his backpack. He took out a card immediately. The cleaning card was no different from the rest of the cards, except that the pattern was different, and he didn't take a closer look, so he chose to use it directly. He also used the system items several times, so he guessed how to use this cleaning card. After he used it, he saw the card suddenly turned into a light and rushed into his body, and then under his surprised gaze, bloodline, dirty, and broken clothes on his body changed rapidly. This process lasted for about 5 seconds, and then all the dirty things on his body disappeared completely, and he couldn't see half of it again. The things in the system are really amazing. This cleaning card seems to be of little power, but it is still very useful. The effect of the cleaning card is quite satisfactory to Akainu, at least much better than that of donuts and the like. After a while, Pelusalino led several warships to merge with this warship. How? Crane Vice Admiral asked Pelusalino. Pelusalino said, destroyed 3 pirate ships and killed many pirates, but the others were still run away by them, and Whitebeard also escaped. Suru Vice Admiral nodded. He was not surprised by the result. Before so many of them could not take the Whitebeard pirates, even if they are more powerful at sea than the pirates, they want to keep Whitebeard and others. Pelusalino alone is definitely not enough. It can get rid of many pirates, which is already a good result. Crane Vice Admiral said quietly, from the point of view of the losses of both sides, we should be able to say that this battle was a victory. However, the G5 branch base collapsed and the blow to our marine was also great. In the end, Whitebeard escaped. It's unbeaten and unbeaten. Although they killed the pirates miserably, they even lost their base. This result can only be regarded as invincible. The island is sinking. The warship was some distance away from the base island, but many people still saw the change of the base island. They saw that the sea around the island rolled, forming a big wave crashing into the island, and they also saw Garp still fighting Kaido. Kaido's roar, the sound is amazing. Even if it is so far away, they can still hear it. Kuzan said, quickly, in less than an hour at most, the island will be completely submerged by the sea. Garp Vice Admiral and Kaido have not yet determined the outcome. I don't know what he planned. Pelusalino chuckled and said, if Garp Vice Admiral can catch Kaido, it would be a big win. Judging from the battle between Kaido and Garp, Garp is obviously better than Kaido, But Kaido is the kind of rough-skinned and very resistant person. Even if it is an iron fist like Garp, defeating him may be opportunity, but it is very difficult to catch him or kill him. After a short while, Harrington and the Ghost Spider came together and walked in front of Vice Admiral. Both Harrington and Ghost Spider were not in good condition. Both of them were injured and their faces were pale, but they still insisted on completing their mission. Ghost Spider reported to Crane Vice Admiral, "Senior, the casualty statistics are already almost worked out." Upon hearing this, all the people of the Vice Admiral stopped talking and asked, "How?" The Ghost Spider said, "In this war, the Vice Admiral level killed 3 people and seriously injured 2. Rear Admiral level killed 4 people and seriously injured 4 people. Commodore killed 11 people and seriously injured 16 people. The school level officers were killed in total. 41 people and 22 were seriously injured. Soldiers below the school level, 10,261 people were killed in battle, and more than 2,000 people were seriously injured. There are no statistics on the remaining slightly injured because there are too many." Hearing these numbers, everyone's faces became very ugly. This time their total number of soldiers was about 33,000. Suddenly more than 10,000 people were lost, which is equivalent to 1/3 of the number of deaths. This still does not include severely injured and lightly injured personnel. In particular, the loss of the generals is even more serious. You must know that the training of every general requires a great price. This time, Vice Admiral died 3, Rear Admiral died 4, which are several years older than Marine. The generals lost even more. The Vice Admiral sighed faintly, and said, "Although I have guessed that the loss will be heavy, but I did not expect it to reach this level. Aside from the loss, even the base island was destroyed. We did not win this battle." The Vice Admiral's conclusion is the same as Whitebeard. This time both sides have suffered heavy losses, and it is impossible to calculate who wins and loses. Perusalino said lazily, "No victory, but it can't be considered a failure. At the very least, it also gave the Whitebeard pirates a heavy blow. This time, the Whitebeard pirates suffered heavy losses, at least within a few years. It's hard for them to stir the wind and the rain." Yes, the Whitebeard pirates were beaten miserably this time. Their strength was considered a great success in the New World. Compared with the other 2 pirate emperors, the Big Mom pirates and Beasts pirates are both stronger. But after this battle, the Whitebeard pirates was pulled down from the altar, and it was not easy to say later. By the way, where are the Sakazuki people? Pelusalino looked around and didn't find Akainu, so he asked strangely. Kuzan said, "Sakazuki was being treated in the cabin. He suffered serious injuries in the battle with Whitebeard." Perusalino cried out strangely, "Tisk tisk, I really didn't see that Sakazuki's strength has improved so fast, and the old guy Whitebeard can fight you and me. Speaking of, we are a lot behind." Although Kuzan didn't answer the call, he admitted it in his heart. Akainu is much better than him now. But Pelusalino is really a bit uncomfortable. You have to know that his strength was not much different from that of Akainu before, but how long has it been since Akainu has been able to compete head-on with people like Whitebeard? But he hasn't been much improvement. Therefore, in addition to his unhappiness, there is also tremendous pressure in his heart. Akainu is already so strong. If he doesn't work hard, he will be pushed farther by Akainu in the future. "Yo, Sakazuki. Why did you come out?" Perusalino turned his head and saw that Akainu had walked over, and suddenly asked in surprise. "Kuzan said you are seriously injured and need recuperation. How can you still walk around by yourself?" He heard from Kuzan just now that Akainu was injured badly and several bones were broken by Whitebeard. Shouldn't he lie down and recuperate at this time? Why did he come out again? Akainu said faintly, "This little injury is nothing. Why, haven't Garp Vice Admiral and Kaido finished yet?" His injury was not minor, but he could bear it. Looking towards the base island, it had collapsed for the most part, but he could still see movement. Obviously Garp was still fighting with Kaido there. Kuzan looked at the clean Akainu strangely. He remembered that Akainu's clothes were a mess. How did it become so clean after a while? Did he just change his clothes? But Kuzan was puzzled, but didn't ask. When the base island was almost half submerged, the battle between Garp and Kaido finally came out. Garp grabbed Kaido, who was much taller than him, rushed out of the base island, and boarded the warship that greeted him against the wind and waves. Boom. Kaido's huge body was thrown on the deck of the warship, making a rumbling sound. Garp panted and said, "His grandma, this Kaido is just a pervert." His appearance at this time was also very embarrassed. His upper body was torn long ago. His upper body was naked, and there were many scratches on his strong body. At first glance, he knew that the battle was not easy. It is indeed not easy. Even a strong man of Garp's level is choked by Kaido's defense. This guy is simply immune to death's Xiaoqiang. The defense and strength are amazing, compared to him for more than 2 decades. The captain who was defeated before was worse than that. Whitebeard was not defeated, but Kaido was caught. This time it was a reward. This war was prepared for Whitebeard, but who would have thought that Whitebeard hadn't caught it, and actually caught the beast Kaido? This result, even Akainu and others, are all looking at each other. What is Kaido? Give yourself to save others. What do you do now? Garp asked Vice Admiral. Suru Vice Admiral thought for a while, and then said, the base island of the G5 branch can no longer be returned. Let's go to the base island of the original G1 branch to fix it, and then contact Sengoku to see what he is going to do. Naturally, everyone would have no opinion on this, so a group of warships quickly left here and headed towards the base of the original G1 branch. When the people of the Whitebeard pirates and marine were evacuated, the results of the war had been known to the major forces concerned. New World, Cake Islands. Mom, the battle between the Whitebeard pirates and naval headquarters is over. Charlotte Perospero, the eldest son of 4 emperors Charlotte Linlin, respectfully said to Charlotte Linlin in front of him. The current Big Mom pirate group has just become the 4 emperors pirate group, and the ladder system has not been fully established. The 4 desert stars have not yet become famous, so the ones that are most valued by Charlotte Linlin are the top ones, children. As the eldest son, Pero, Master has a lot of power at this time, and he is also responsible for paying attention to this war. Huh. Is it finished? Charlotte Linlin was shocked and asked, what's the result? Did the old fellow Whitebeard win, or Marine win? Perospero replied, Mom, according to the information sent by our people, both Marine and Whitebeard pirates have suffered heavy losses. When the Whitebeard pirates went there were more than a dozen pirate ships, but when they were evacuated, there are only a few ships left. Although I don't know their specific conditions, they should have suffered extremely heavy losses. Charlotte Linlin gave a startled suspicion and asked, is that Whitebeard defeated? Perospero said, I can't say that. Whitebeard's loss was very serious, but Marine was not comfortable. It is said that they even had their base island destroyed. Therefore, Marine and the pirates suffered heavy losses, but Whitebeard neither Marine Admiral Akainu nor Marine Admiral Akainu seem to have died in a battle, so it should be considered a tie. A tie? Charlotte Linlin laughed. If it is a tie, then Marine has lost. After so careful planning, without catching Whitebeard, even if Whitebeard's pirates die, it's nothing. If Whitebeard doesn't fall, the Whitebeard pirates will still exist. Both are 4 emperors, but even she agrees with Whitebeard very much. In her opinion, Whitebeard is immortal, and the rest of the pirates are all dead, and no one can shake Whitebeard's status. Perospero continued, Mom, but an accident happened. When Marine was fighting with the pirates, Kaido suddenly appeared on the battlefield. It was because of his appearance that Marine appeared. The problem changed the situation of the battle. Kaido? How did that guy go to the battlefield? Charlotte Linlin's eyes widened and an astonishing aura burst out. Perospero cautiously replied, I don't know what's going on, it's just that when the information came back, Kaido did appear on the battlefield, and Whitebeard both fled. But he was defeated by the Marine hero Garp and was captured alive. What a fool. Charlotte Linlin couldn't help but cursed, and then his eyes became serious. Kaido and her used to be a companion of the pirates. She knew Kaido's strength well. The reason for the dissolution of the pirates was when Garp was destroyed. Lost their captain, the big pirate who almost dominated New World. Unexpectedly, after more than 20 years, Garp's strength is still so strong, and Kaido is defeated. There are not many people in Marine who can make her afraid, and Garp can definitely rank first. In addition to the Big Mom pirate group, the other pirate forces in New World also received the news one after another. They all acted very shocked. They thought that Whitebeard, the leader of the New World 4 emperors, was able to destroy New World's Marine. But I didn't expect that it was a loss for both sides in the end, which made the great pirate forces recognize the strength of Marine. After the war, Sengoku, who was far in the first half of the Grand Line, also received a call from Vice Admiral Crane. The two talked about the war in detail during the call. After hanging up the phone, Sengoku leaned back in his chair and meditated. This war did not last for a long time, only more than 2 hours, but the process was ever-changing. The most important thing was the sudden appearance of Kaido. In that case, it was because of the appearance of Kaido this time that the Whitebeard pirates weren't wiped out. According to the process that Vice Admiral told him, before Kaido did not appear, Marine had a clear advantage, and Garp, a big killer, did not make a shot, so the winning rate at that time was still very high. It's just that after Kaido appeared, not only did the pirates' morale increase, but Garp was also restrained. In the end, Akainu and Whitebeard could only be tough. As a result, the battle of these four top powerhouses forced the entire island to collapse. Of course, the power of Whitebeard is the decisive factor that can destroy the base island. The earthquake and tsunami caused by shockfruit are really terrifying. It's just that if Whitebeard is not wiped out this time, there will be endless troubles. Sengoku sighed faintly. Although he caught Kaido, he was not in a good mood because he ran away from Whitebeard. For now, he still feels that Whitebeard is more threatening. This time he did not catch Whitebeard. I am afraid there is no chance. And this time it also exposed the strength of Marine. After this battle, Whitebeard will definitely develop his own power. Then they will inevitably become stronger and stronger, and it will be more difficult to deal with in the future. What worries Sengoku most is that if the Whitebeard pirates is not eliminated this time, the New World pirates will probably become more arrogant. They will feel that Marine is incompetent. Even a Whitebeard pirates can't be destroyed. The pirate must be even more unable to deal with it. The only thing that made Sengoku gratified was that instead of getting rid of Whitebeard, Kaido accidentally caught Kaido. Although Kaido is not as good as Whitebeard, it is one of the new four emperors. It still has a deterrent effect on the pirates of New World. Living in Kaido can at least allow the reactionary pirates to weigh their own weight. It's just what five elders should explain. Can a Kaido satisfy them? Sengoku was also very upset. His dignified leader of naval headquarters actually had to explain to five elders about this matter. This feeling of being constrained made him very uncomfortable, but no matter how uncomfortable he was, he still had to do it. After all, naval headquarters is a military force under the command of the world government. As the leader of five elders, he still has to give an explanation. However, because of the tension in the battle before, the marine forces that he forcibly conscripted before they arrived, the war was over, so Sengoku let them return to their positions to monitor the pirates of New World. As long as the pirates, any movement of the forces must be reported as quickly as possible. As for the large number of marine soldiers who died in this war, Sengoku didn't feel too distressed. After all, he was prepared before he was ready to go to war. However, the loss of general marine officers made him very distressed. It is easy to train a group of soldiers. Cultivating a group of officers requires a lot of resources. New World, the original Marine G1 branch base. After the G5 branch base island was sunk, Marine's fleet came to the G1 branch base together. This was originally the site of Harrington under Akainu. It was only 2 years ago that Harrington was defeated by Whitebeard and then forced to withdraw. New World, so Marine of the G1 branch was immediately laid off, leaving only a small number of soldiers to guard the security of the base. The G5 branch base is just a fortress of Marine, so the island is not too big, but the island of the G1 branch base is different. In addition to Marine, there is also a large town on which many people live. The area of the island it is also several times larger than the island of the G5 branch, almost half the size of Naval Headquarters Marineford, and is the largest marine base in New World. As an important fortress of Marine, although the G1 branch has been evacuated, it is not abandoned here. It is still the same as before. In the past 2 years, no pirate forces dared to attack this island. Because this island is much larger than the base island of the G5 branch, when Akainu and his party came here, they didn't feel crowded at all, and they entered the base smoothly. This base is now also managed by a branch vice admiral. Originally, they also received the order from Sengoku to bring people to support, but they were just ready to move, but they received an order to stop them and stay here and wait. The army came, so before Akainu and the others arrived, he was ready to receive them. After setting up the soldiers, he vice admiral discussed with Akainu and held a high-level meeting. The meeting was initiated by Akainu, and the participants were all vice admiral level generals: Crane, Garp, Paluzolino, Claude, Kuzan, Harrington, and 3 other vice admiral, a total of 10 people. Although Akainu is the tallest admiral here, he handed over the task of summarizing to Vice Admiral Crane. After all, Crane has always been responsible for dispatching troops, and everything after the war is managed by her, and he knows more about this war than him. And the analytical ability of Vice Admiral is better than him. After all, they are specialized in this area. Crane Vice Admiral did not put on any airs, his face was serious, and he said directly, "I believe you all already know the results and loss of this war. Although we have severely damaged the Whitebeard pirates, we did not annihilate them, so the first battle can only be regarded as a small victory, but the price we paid is also very high. Next, I will talk about the summary of this battle." Everyone listened carefully to he Vice Admiral's explanation. From the beginning to the end of the war, he Vice Admiral talked a lot, pointed out the shortcomings, made a summary, and so on, for more than 10 minutes. After Suru Vice Admiral said these words, Akainu also said some, and then solemnly said, "Several of you here are my predecessors, and they certainly know more than me. I won't say much about the others, just say a little bit." Seeing that Akainu didn't put on Admiral's airs, everyone felt better about him, and they all listened carefully. Everyone has seen this war. The number of troops is very important, but what is more important is the top combat power. We were able to destroy the Whitebeard pirate group, but Whitebeard's power was too strong and it repeatedly disrupted our plans. Even our base island was sunk in the end. This kind of power is simply not something ordinary soldiers can contend. Akainu's gaze turned to everyone, and he said solemnly, "Fighting with Whitebeard has shown me my lack of strength. If I can be stronger and beat Whitebeard, it won't be like this. The result, so I hope you can also recognize this. Everyone is the mainstay of Marine, with great potential. Just imagine if we can all have the same strength as Garp Vice Admiral, would there be any problems in destroying the pirates of New World?" Wahahaha. The serious meeting was interrupted by Garp's laughter. Garp laughed and shook his head and said, "Well, Sakazuki is right. If you were all as strong as me, what is Whitebeard? New World 4 emperors, kill as many as there are, ha 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 ha." Everyone looked at Garp with a smug face in speechlessness. The character of this marine hero is really no one. See how reliable he was when he fought Kaido. Look at the present, it is a complete tease. Garp's pride hasn't stopped. He pointed to a few people around him and said, "But you want to be like me, I am afraid it is difficult to do it. After all, how many talents like me can the world find out? You don't have to regard me as a goal. I think Sakazuki is pretty good. Just work towards him, ha ha ha." Everyone has seen Garp's shamelessness, and it is definitely comparable to his strength. Garp Vice Admiral, do you remember the afternoon of August 25th? Just when Garp was so proud, Akainu suddenly said something quietly. Akainu's sudden words shocked everyone present, and then looked at Garp. And Garp himself was taken aback, stopped smiling, and asked Akainu blankly, "What happened in the afternoon of August 25th? Sakazuki, what are you talking about?" Akainu said lightly, "It's the story on the corner of the wall." Fear score from Monkey D. Garp. Plus 500. When he heard the corner of the wall, Garp didn't know what Akainu was talking about. He trembled in his heart and directly provided Akainu with 500 fear points. When he doubled it, he got 1000 points. This made Akainu's heart secretly refreshed. Garp coughed a few times and said in a serious tone, meeting, Crane, you continue to say, don't you have Sengoku's order to convey? You can say it now." Seeing a few words from Akainu, he stopped Garp. The expressions of all the people present became very weird. They were all guessing what Garp had in the hands of Akainu, so that they didn't dare to do anything, said. Even Crane, who knows Garp very well, swept Garp strangely. He knew there must be some hidden secret between Garp and Akainu, but after all, she was not the kind of person who digs into the roots, and did not ask. She said to everyone, "I have reported all the circumstances to Marshal Sengoku. Marshal Sengoku means that in the future, the G5 branch will be stationed here temporarily and will increase its troops in New World in the future, but the final decision will be returned. Naval headquarters, it is up to everyone to discuss and decide, and now Claude stays here with the soldiers from the original G5 branch." Claude nodded and said, "Listen to the order." Claude is one of the few marine generals who have not been injured. Although his opponents are also some captains of the Whitebeard pirates, his combat experience is more abundant than that of the Vice Admiral from Naval Headquarters, for so long. In the battle, he was only slightly injured, but the results achieved were not worse than the rest of Vice Admiral. In fact, don't think that Claude is the Vice Admiral branch, but his strength is really strong, otherwise he would not be able to sit in the New World for so many years. Even if he is placed in the Vice Admiral of the headquarters, he can also be ranked in the top in strength. Suru Vice Admiral continued, "In addition, Marshal Sengoku's order is that the seriously wounded soldiers stay at the base to recuperate, and the remaining soldiers will set off 3 days later to escort Kaido to the naval headquarters." No one was surprised by this order. The capture of Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, is a very important matter. It is definitely not safe to put in the New World. Naturally, I want to send it to the first half of the Grand Line. The main commands Sengoku said were these 2, and the rest were simple commands, or they were not suitable to be spoken in front of everyone. After Suru Vice Admiral said a few more words, everyone was dissolved. Leave. The war is over. They are mainly responsible for the aftermath of the soldiers, and the rest must be handed over to naval headquarters. They don't need to be annoying, just execute orders. After everyone else left, Suru Vice Admiral asked Akainu. Sengoku meant you to stay in New World Guard, what do you think? Akainu nodded and said, no problem, that's what I planned originally. Although their war with Whitebeard is over, it does not mean that the next New World will settle down. They and Whitebeard are both injured. It is inevitable that some overpowered pirates will think about it. At this time, let Claude alone. Guarding New World, he is really worried. Besides, his 1-year period with Sengoku is not over yet. This answer was also expected by Vice Admiral. She said, what will happen to New World in the next period of time? No one can tell. Not afraid of 10,000. Just in case, you stay here the best option. Does your injury matter? Akainu said, fortunately, it will be able to fully recover after a period of time, and it will not have much impact. The more troublesome aspect of his injuries are internal injuries and broken bones. Even with a physique like him, under excellent medical conditions, it will take some time to recover. Suru Vice Admiral said, it's okay, Sengoku has another meaning. He has already begun to increase his troops in New World. Now that he has started fighting with the Whitebeard pirates, the original agreement is no longer valid. The G1 branch was transferred to New World. Akainu raised her brows and asked, retransfer to New World? What about the G5 branch? This base belonged to the original G1 branch and is now used by Claude. But if the G1 branch is transferred back to New World, what should the Claude G5 branch do? Leave here. He Vice Admiral continued. This was originally a base belonging to the G1 branch. It is not easy to change it. You can temporarily rest the G branch, but after a suitable base is established, they need to move. Akainu said, isn't this too troublesome? Just let Claude and the others stay here, and the new G1 branch will find a suitable place to build a base. He Vice Admiral said, there are no regulations on this matter, but I don't think it will be changed easily. Hearing this, Akainu didn't say much anymore. He also knew that Naval Headquarters pays more attention to inheritance. Sengoku has a more conservative personality and will not change easily. In his opinion, things that are very troublesome can be addressed to Sengoku. Say, it's not the same. He Vice Admiral continued. Claude Vice Admiral is your friend. You can tell him that this matter has not been settled anyway. If he has a suitable place, he can also advise the department. Akainu didn't speak, saying that he could make suggestions. That's really just talking. Sengoku had just become Marine Marshal. How could he be persuaded so easily? But there was one question, he was more curious. Marshal Sengoku said to rebuild the New World G1 branch, then who is he going to choose as the leader? Since the G1 branch was transferred to the first half of the Grand Line, it has been randomly arranged to a branch base, because the first half of the Grand Line is guarded by Naval Headquarters, and there is no need for an overly powerful branch. But New World is different. If the G1 branch does not have strong strength, it is simply not enough to survive in New World, so the current branch Vice Admiral is definitely not enough to take on this important task. This issue was only raised by Sengoku, and the specifics have not yet been implemented, so it is of course impossible for Vice Admiral to know. So, Akainu said, if I can suggest someone. My Ghost Spider Vice Admiral has outstanding abilities in all aspects. I think it is very suitable for him to become the Vice Admiral of the G1 branch. Crane looked at Akainu in surprise. She really didn't expect Akainu to make this suggestion. She thought about it, and then said, I'll report your ideas to Sengoku, but in the end, I will say too. Not aloud. Akainu said, thank you, Senior Crane, and I will leave first. Looking at Akainu's back, Crane shook her head. She was really surprised by Akainu's proposal. The Ghost Spider is Akainu's capable man. He is actually willing to let the Ghost Spider leave the private army and take charge of the branch army alone. But I turned my head and thought, if it is really successful, the Ghost Spider will become the Vice Admiral of the G1 branch. He was originally a subordinate of Akainu, and he must be looking forward to the Akainu Horsehead. The other G5 branch Vice Admiral Claude also has a very good relationship with Akainu. By then, the two strongest branches of New World will all be on Akainu's side. Hey. He shook her head and sighed lightly, not knowing why she sighed.